Sarah the farmer. A chatter. And what's going on?
Hello and welcome to the Nighthawk Racing First Championship. I'm Sarah Hawkins, also known as Sarah Hawkey, and I will be your host this evening and one of your co-commentators for this Gran Turismo 7 Base Championship. I'm joined by motorsport enthusiast, racer and co-commentator Kirk.
Oh, I'm glad to be back after what was a very good race at Fuji last week. Tonight we'll be looking forward to much of the same and hopefully see plenty of thrills and no spills.
Indeed. So, I'll give it a quick rundown of tonight. So we have, and the championship, we have an 8-event championship with 16 race sessions in a sprint and a feature race dual format. There are 20 different drivers in total, 13 different manufacturers, and 5 legendary grade 1 circuits, with 3 classic tracks from the world of Gran Turismo. For round 6, we are at the historic track known as the Nürburgring, a legendary track that I'm sure we can all appreciate the history that goes with this track. I'm personally awaiting all the on-track action tonight. The format for tonight is slightly different to what we've seen previously, which will be mentioned shortly. So, we have 3 official time sessions. We start tonight with our first racing session with a reverse championship sprint race, which is then followed by the qualifying session for the feature race, which then the feature race will be our third and final session of the night. When the dust has barely settled since Fuji, race 6 this evening here at the legendary track of Nürburgring will give us yet more on-track action. So, Kirk, could you give me an overview of the event session format for tonight, if you could?
Absolutely, Sarah. Tonight, as you said, is a bit different to what we've seen at previous events. So starting tonight at about 8:30, British Standard Time, it will be a 15-minute sprint race in reverse championship order. So, for example, our top 3 right now is Twizzy first, Katie Kai second, and Muckmanley third. So those 3 will be at the back of the grid for the sprint race. It will be a open tire choice. So if you want to go, you want to rock it off at the start with some softs, maybe suffer a bit more tire wear towards the end of the 15 minutes, and you can start soft. Or obviously, if you want to last the whole event, you can start on the medium tire. After that, at about 10 to 9 British Standard Time again, we'll have our 10-minute qualifying event for our feature race. The tyre you set your fastest lap on will be the tyre that you start on for the feature race. So again, much like the sprint race, where if you qualify on the softs, it isn't an open choice. So you have to, if you qualify on the softs, you start on the softs. Qualify on the mediums, you start on the medium. And that takes us on to our feature race tonight, which will be 29 laps around Nürburgring today. It's a start grid order, grid start, so everyone will be nice and packed, tight and packed into turn one. So hopefully we don't see too much drama kick off into the first corner. There is a mandatory 2 different sets of tires have to be used. So, say if you start on the softs, you have to use either the medium or the hard, and vice versa. So, if you start on the mediums, you have to use the soft or the hard tire during the race. The only exemption to this rule is if the the water indicator, moisture indicator on the track goes over one third full, which will then be considered a wet race. So is open compound choice to the rest of the race. So you don't have to use 2 sets if that moisture mark goes over a third. Yeah, and then after that, you want to take us away with the point system?
Of course. So, over to the points. In qualifying, if you qualify first, you get third points. Second, you get 2 points. And third, you get 1 point. That goes for the top 3 in the qualifying. In both races, there is 2 available points each for if you get the fastest lap of, say, the sprint race, you get 2 points, and then if the same driver or a different driver gets the fastest lap in the feature race, they also get an added 2 points. So points across the board. As we go through the sprint race points, if you come home in first, you get 20 points, all the way down to 14th, you get 2 points. In the feature race, these are almost doubled, so first place gets 40 points, all the way down to 14th gets 4 points. So points across the board. As I always say, it's good to be racing. Whatever position you get, you're going to get a lot of points, which obviously will help in the driver standings and the championship results. Talking about the championship standings, I'm just going to bring it on screen now before we get over to talking about the drivers themselves. As you can see, Swizzy is leading the pack at the moment in first with 315 points, all the way down to one of our reserves, Chef, who's on 17 points. So, let's go over to talk about the drivers. I'll kick it off with Bertie. Bertie is currently sitting on 111 points and is 7th place in the standings. Bertie so far has had a very consistent drives, showing consistency is definitely rewarded around a lot of tracks. Keep an eye out on Bertie tonight, as I'm sure he will have another impressive drive. Next up, we have Deadline. Deadline is returning again tonight in the RX Vision. Deadline will be looking for a similar performance as last week after securing himself a P3 at Fuji. Let's see what the experienced racer can find in himself at this legendary track. Over to Fred. Fred currently has 103 points and is 8th place in the standings. Over the past couple of races, we have seen a massive improvement in Fred's pace, always fighting for positions. Keep it up, Fred, and good luck for tonight. Next up, we have KD the Kai. Kai, a frequent podium position driver and a driver that is capable of achieving the fastest laps of the races. He will be looking for another impressive drive as usual. Kai is sitting on 252 points in 2nd position in the driver standings. Can he close that gap to Swizzy before the end of the championship? Next up, we have Kulios. Kulios is back in the driver's seat tonight for what will be an exciting night around Nürburgring. Kulios has threatened the podium with his raw pace on more than one occasion, but with 13 penalty points, he just needs to find that consistency above all. With the level of penalty points that Kulios has, he does start at the back of the sprint race for tonight, so he'll have to make his on-track racing do the talking. Next up, we have Lee. Lee had a very impressive sprint race around Fuji last week, securing himself a 4th place finish, very close to the podium indeed, getting our Driver of the Day award as well. Lee is sitting in 5th in the championship, only 10 points behind Pedro. To me, Lee has been very consistent, keeping the effort up, and I'm sure you'll be fighting for podiums very soon. Also recently, Lee has become the Power Max Racing Esports Manager. The team at Nighthawk Racing just wanted to say a massive congratulations, Lee. And my final driver, we have Nick. So, Nick has had a tentative start but is looking to improve throughout the rest of the season. Tonight at the Nürburgring, he starts at the back of the pack. This will be a great opportunity for him to see the racing lines and braking points that the drivers around him are using. Good luck and have fun, Nick. And now I'm going to hand over to Kirk.
So we started off with Manley. Found himself in a bit of the wars last week in the sprint race, being the unfortunate loser in a 3-wide battle on the exit at turn 1, leading to him finishing probably not where he'd really want to be, P7 in the sprint race. He bounced back strongly in the sprint in the feature race, finishing 4th, only a couple of seconds behind Pedro. He is still 3rd in our championship on 198 points. And so that Pedro, one of our own Nighthawk admin, Pedro, he had an underwhelming sprint race, very disappointing to finish P9 after losing a few positions late on during the race. However, he drove a very solid feature race, which saw him reaching the podiums again after managing to hold off the charging McManley in the last stage of the race. Pedro is currently 5th in our standings on 159 points. And tonight, the grid is joined by another one of our own, Midnight ISO. He'll be looking to extend his gap to Sarah in our little commentator battle we've seen go on this season. Several strategic masterclasses have helped Luke finish on the podium multiple times this season. Will we see it again tonight? I do believe Luke will certainly be challenging for a podium tonight. After that, we have Sim Race Dude. Had a very solid week very solid round last week, finishing both P6 in both the sprint and the feature race. This is the kind of consistency that allows him to be so high up in our championship. Currently 4th on 162 points, showing that consistency is key and certainly more important than pure pace alone. Stephen. Another consistent showing from Stephen last week, finishing P11 in the sprint race and P10 in the feature race. He will certainly be trying to. I can certainly see him doing very well in the sprint race this week, as the Nürburgring is certainly a tricky track to overtake on, and I can imagine him certainly wanting to challenge the top 6 this week in the sprint race. Then we have Swizzy. Last week, Swizzy was doing Swizzy things. Slight upset in qualifying. Qualifying second behind Kai. A close sprint race saw Swizzy cut through the pack and battling with Deadline, making the overtake for the win within the last 5 minutes of the race. Victory again in the feature race after we saw what was a very close first and second stint, to which we saw 4 drivers all fighting over first position. In the end, Swizzy's unrelenting pace helped him overcome all competitors to win the feature race. This leaves Swizzy leading our championship on 315 points. And finally, we have everyone's favourite racer, Ziggy. It was a tale of 2 races last week for Ziggy, finishing a dizzying P5 in the disappointing P11 in the feature race. I'm sure he'll be eager to challenge the top 5 again this week, Ziggy. He is currently 14th in our standings on 62 points. Sarah.
Thank you very much for that. So, as we're treated to the sprint race before the qualifying today, we're going to wait to say our track facts while we let the drivers do their first couple of opening laps. But talking about the drivers themselves, anyone that you'll be kind of keeping your eye on today, Kirk?
Absolutely. As I said in the sprint race being reverse championship order, I'm expecting to see the likes of a very good showing from the likes of Ziggy. Deadline we saw do very well in the sprint race last week. Obviously battling with Swizzy up until around to the end of the race. I think someone who could probably go under the radar this week would be someone like your Koulios. Someone who we've seen has the pace to be up there, as we saw at High Speed Ring and at round one round one. I think most important thing about Nürburgring is that as long as you nail your exits of corners, it's really difficult to overtake. So I think my dark horses for this race will be Koulios, Diggy, and almost certainly Deadline, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely some good picks there. I've got to say, like yourself, there's a few drivers that I'll be keeping my eye on, especially the drivers that you said. I fear that, I feel that a track around here, it's like this one. It's one of those ones. It's got a lot of corners, shall we say. You're going around the corner, you're then greeted by another corner not too far away. So it'll kind of test our drivers a little bit that are kind of used to those long straights. The Nürburgring is completely different. But yeah, hopefully the drivers will enjoy this track. Should bring some good close racing as usual. So, just recapping, Kirk, do you want to tell everyone who got the sprint race podium last week?
Yes, so last week in our sprint race, we saw Swizzy battling with Deadline for the final few minutes of the race and in our eventual winner. Followed by Katie Kai, who got promoted up to second after a penalty for Deadline demoted him to third. Yeah, it was unfortunate to get Deadline, obviously unfortunate to get penalty to cost him second place, but I'm sure he'll be more than ecstatic with third place, Sarah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, a podium is a podium at the end of the day, so I think he'll be happy with that third place in the RX Vision. As we saw before in the opening kind of stages of the championship, he seemed to be struggling a lot with that Lamborghini, so maybe he's found the car that kind of suits his driving style a little bit more and has allowed him to kind of feel more confident behind the wheel. So before the race is about to start in a few minutes' time, so we'll just recap the feature race podium. Last week we had Swizzy come home with another win in the feature race, Katie the Kai in second, and one of our Nighthawk admin team, Pedro, coming home in third place after driving quite an astonishing feature race, getting him back up into the podium, fighting a few people. And anything you've got to say about the feature race from last week, Kirk, before the sprint race is starting?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we saw it in the first and or in between the phase of first and second pit stops that we had that four-way battle at the front between Swizzy, Katie, Dekai, Pedro, and Deadline. I'm hoping to see much of the same today. Obviously, Deadline with some very very robust defending last week. Especially in the feature race. I'm hoping to see much of the same today, because if Deadline can pull off the same defensive drive as he did last week, you could certainly see him up there towards the top of the pack, because there's really not a lot of places to overtake around here, especially as someone who can defend as well as Deadline, Sarah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Good evening, Coach. Thank you very much. Wish there was room for me. Hopefully for the second season there will be. It's always a pleasure to see you out on track, and hopefully you'll be watching the drivers tonight, and we'll see you at some point before the season finishes and in season 2. But yeah, as we are waiting for the sprint race, it's just about to start, I believe, so we'll get ourselves ready to get going. There we are. So, any last minute predictions from yourself, Kirk? What can we expect from this sprint race? Obviously, slightly different format tonight. We're having the sprint race before qualifying. Do you think this will affect any of the drivers? No, not at all. If everyone's practiced and got to where they want to be, I think we should have a very good race tonight. I'm thinking we're going to see... I think we'll see Deadline and Midnight both challenge for a podium. Ziggy will obviously want to be up there as well. Yeah, Sarah. Yeah, so as we get going, we currently have a Deadline in the lead. And away we go. So in starting order, we have... Oh no, unfortunately Ziggy is just spun. But we have Deadline, Midnight, Fred, Stephen, Bertie, Lee, Pedro, McManley. And if you want to take it from 9th downwards for me, Kirk.
Yeah, then we have Swizzy behind McManley, Katie Kai possibly looking around the outside or for a cutback to the inside on Swizzy. Followed by Sim Race Dude, Ziggy, who we saw obviously spin, Kulios and Nick at the back, both serving their penalties today. As the deadline already got a 1.7 second lead to midnight, they are both completely streaking away from the field, Sarah.
They are. They got a very good start off of the line, and like I say, I think that RX vision of Deadline, he's found a car that's kind of suiting him quite well. So going again for another podium finish. Oh, a little bit of a collision there between a few drivers. Yes, I can. There we are. So, a little bit of a coming together for Stephen and Fred there, coming out of the Schumacher S, hopefully. Yeah, Stephen gets going again. Hopefully, obviously, not a lot of that happens. It's not nice to see drivers going off, but that's the sort of thing when drivers are close together. Unfortunately, this does happen, and GT7 with the lag issues at the moment, it does make it a lot harder to see where the drivers are. But hopefully, Stephen will get going again, and I'm sure by the end of the race he should be able to climb a few positions.
Pedro and Swizzy going side by side going into turn 1. Is Pedro going to try and make a defense into attack as he tries to look up the inside of Katie Kai? He outbrakes Katie Kai. He's up the inside. Pedro going in defense into attack by going up the inside of Katie Kai, but he's under threat again from Swizzy. There's a little bit of contact there. Nothing too bad, just a little bit of rubbing. Swizzy still looks up the inside, brakes later. It's in the space of one sector, we see Swizzy go from 8th up to 6th. He went from attacking Pedro to attacking both Pedro and Katie Kai. As we see Fred make a slight mistake, Swizzy up to P5. Up behind Lee Racing, who we know Sarah, in these sort of races, Lee can do really well, can't he?
He can. He's one of those drivers that can keep it quite consistent, quite quiet. You never kind of can predict where he's going to finish, but he always finishes quite high up and gets a lot of points. So yeah, Lee's one of those drivers. He's better than the rest, as they say in F1. But yeah, hopefully again he'll have another good race. He seems to quite enjoy that Lexus. Seems to be quite in tune with it and his driving style. But yeah, as you said, a battle forming between Swizzy, Pedro, and KD the Kai. Can Pedro split the two GTRs? We usually see them quite close to each other. They seem to follow each other quite a bit around these races. Can Pedro possibly split the two GTR drivers?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't put money against it. Pedro is always up there. Is one of the faster drivers in the field, as we see Swizzy going round the outside of Lee into the final chicane. But now, can Swizzy close this gap up to McManley, Midnight and Deadline, Sarah?
Oh, knowing Swizzy's pace, I'm not going to say no. I think, is it a GTR or is it a rocket ship when it's in Swizzy's hands? Swizzy kind of extracts all element of performance out of that GTR.
This certainly isn't helping Swizzy or KD the Kai out. Obviously battling with Lee. Cost him. You can see that move alone just cost him a second. As we see Swizzy going very wide on the exit of those corners.
Yeah, around the Nürburgring, obviously the corners do let you go a little bit wide, but around this track you never want to take too much curb or go too wide, because you never know how this game is with penalties. If it's going to be nice or it's not going to be nice, you never know until you accidentally go that a little bit too wide and you get a penalty. But as we go back up to the front, the gap to Deadline and Midnight is back down to under a second. It's about 8/10 at the moment. Could we see a sprint race win from one of the Nighthawk admin team and co-founder Midnight ISO in that McLaren?
As we see Deadline running slightly wide there, putting himself under a lot of pressure from Midnight. I certainly wouldn't be against wouldn't be against putting money on Midnight possibly winning this race, especially if Swizzy gets caught up behind McManley and Deadline, who we both know defend very well, as we've seen from previous encounters between Swizzy and the latter two drivers. Luke coming up the inside down the race straight. That Mazda just out dragging him down the straight line. Is Luke going to try and brake later and look around the outside and get a cut back into turn one? As the gap is, as you see, Midnight going around the outside. Can he get the traction down? No, he can't. Not quite. As he looks, he's trying to use all the track available to try and close that gap up to Deadline. But Deadline holds on for now. As we see Luke almost looping it.
Yeah,
and this is
Deadline does look a little bit laggy in my point of view, so maybe Midnight kind of backing out, waiting for a different opportunity, kind of not knowing where Deadline's 100% going to be, so maybe he's waiting for a little bit of a better opportunity to pass. But that does bring McManley within 4/10 of them both, so it's heating up towards the front of the race at the moment.
And this is all playing into Swizzy and Katie Dekai's favour as well, as they both try and hunt down the leading three drivers. I think the more they battle now, the more they risk bringing Swizzy and Katie Dekai into this battle, Sarah.
Yeah, it seems to be a couple of groups forming. Obviously, we've got P1 to 3. We've also got Pedro, Katie Dekai, and Swizzy all forming a little group. Anything catching your eye towards the back end of the field?
Oh yes, we see Koulios taking a bit too much curb and spinning, or half spinning, down in 11th.
Very easy to do around this track.
Not doing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certainly. Oh, and the dirty tyres make him go slightly wide as well. So it's all about getting your head back down now and trying to close that gap up to the people in front. So we see McManley going past Midnight. His Midnight's gone off.
Oh no. If we can get that on replay,
rewind that
we'll
for us,
do.
Sarah?
Yep. There we are. Hopefully we'll catch just the back end of that. Oh, looks like a little bit of a collision from McManley, hitting the rear of Midnight, making him go off, losing a position to McManley and Swizzy. Obviously, Swizzy carrying a half-second penalty as well.
Does this now play into Katie Dekai's hand? Is this now Katie Dekai's race to win? Or can Deadline hold on, seed off the challenge from McManley and Swizzy to the end of this race?
Ooh. Tough question. Yeah, normally we don't see Swizzy picking up penalties, so as everyone is quite close to each other, that might play into Katie Dekai's hand and getting himself onto that third place step on the podium. I don't think, obviously, Midnight would be very happy after that.
No, but look, fortunately enough, he didn't get any damage. Him or McManley didn't get any damage from that slight bit of contact that they had.
Yeah, very lucky indeed. As I say, that'll be one for the stewards to look at afterwards. But as we just ride on board with Pedro, going through the Schumacher S's. I'm gotta say, we're already 10 minutes into this race. It's flown by with the amount of action that we've been provided tonight, and everyone is relatively close together, which is brilliant to see. I think obviously this track's kind of extracting every element out of all the drivers. Is this a possible move for Pedro?
See Pedro and looking to the outside of the chicane. But you need to be a lot further alongside. You want to stay alongside Luke into that chicane. As Luke defends from now, but as he compromises exit slightly, try to get the cut back onto the main straight. As Luke parks it on the apex, as they still go side by side into the first corner down the pitch straight, can the Genesis power the McLaren into the first corner, which it can do. Pedro brakes later. Maybe goes a little bit deep, allowing Luke to cut back up inside, and then Luke maintains the position for now, Sarah.
Yeah, good, clean, close racing between the two Nighthawk admin and co-founder Midnight ISO and Pedro. Two very different cars, like you say. The Genesis, I still don't know much about, unfortunately, but the McLaren, I know Midnight, in the hands of Midnight, he seems to extract quite a lot of performance out of that McLaren with some unique strategy calls. Obviously, both drivers starting on the softs for the sprint race, which normally I'd say that those two don't. So maybe they feel that a track like this with the corners and the speed that the softs is proving the better tyre for today.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt, sir, but Swizzy's picked up another half-second penalty.
Yes, and somewhere in that, Katie Lekai has gone up to P3. We have a battle brewing between the two friends of Deadline and McManley up at the front as well. The gap's down to about half a second, just under 0.2 at the moment. We're going
Are we going
to
see McManley have a look into this chicane?
Oh, he seems
Not quite. He's got a bit of a favourite run, but that leaves Deadline compromised for the exit into the final corner. Can McManley make the most of it? Oh, Deadline getting very sideways over the curb, but McManley sitting behind for now. Can he get a better run onto this pitch straight? Oh, not quite. He went a bit wide on exit.
Oh, in the background there, just saw Midnight getting a little bit drifty. Somewhere within that lap, Pedro has got in front of Midnight. And somewhere, Katie Dekai
going around. Deadline going deep. Katie Dekai looking around the outside. Oh! Contact between...
I've got to say, Deadline does look very kind of laggy at the moment. That probably doesn't help with the drivers not knowing exactly where Deadline is out on track. Hopefully that will get better for the feature race. Obviously, GT7 being GT7. But yeah, currently holding the lead is Deadline with now Katie Dekai and Swizzy. So the GTRs are back where they find familiar on those podium steps with 2 minutes to go.
I think it also didn't help. Obviously, Katie Dekai really blocking, obviously unintentionally blocking the view from McManley of where Deadline was on track, obviously leading into the contact, but 2 into 1 just doesn't work, does it, Sarah?
It doesn't, no. Especially at the Nürburgring. So as we scroll down the field, currently we have all drivers still in the race, which is always good to see. I'd personally, if I was on track, I'd be using this sprint race, yes, to pick up some points, but also to kind of practice your lines, practice kind of racing with other people, but also kind of sets you up nicely for the qualifying. You've raced it at race speed. Now you can step back a little bit, qualify, and you can see all the drivers around you, what they've done, where they've braked, what kind of lines they're taking. So I think it would be interesting to see the drivers taking what they've used in this sprint race into qualifying.
And this will be our last lap of this sprint race with Deadline leading the way as we look at Katie Kai going up the inside into the first corner. Oh, not leaving a lot of room on exit there for Katie Kai, but Katie Kai takes the lead as Deadline understeers into the path of Swizzy, causing Swizzy to lose a place to McManley. Swizzy then dives right down the inside of McManley, trying to hold it around the outside. After that, so do we see you do that before and pick up half a second penalties there?
I'd say Swizzy going very wide there.
They're going side by side into the next corner. Swizzy with the inside line. McManley holding more speed around the outside, coming in and having the inside line for the next corner. Going down into the Dunlop curve. Swizzy has the better run, but McManley's holding the inside. Can McManley stay alongside Swizzy? He outbrakes Swizzy, but has he outbroke himself? Slightly. But Swizzy also outbrakes himself, allowing McManley to hold position as we see Pedro possibly looking to make a move. Obviously compromising an exit due to the alternative line of Swizzy and McManley. And we see Katie Kai making that daring move into the first corner on this final lap of the race. And taking first place away from Deadline, Sarah.
Yeah, and obviously Katie Dekai picking up the maximum points of coming home in first place. I'm sure I'll be happy with that. Is that his first win of the season? The KD the guy?
I don't think it's Kai's first win of the season. I think he's won a race before, Sarah.
I said, well, he will definitely be taking the win. I reckon that's a very impressive drive from KD the Kai. You should be very happy with that. And as we go through, we have KD the Kai, Deadline, McManley, Swizzy coming home in 4th, Pedro in 5th, Midnight in 6th, Jay in 7th, Lee coming home in 8th, Bertie in 9th, Fred and Koulios just coming around the last corner now. And then we'll go on board with Stephen.
This is a lot of drama at the front of the pack this race, Sarah.
Yeah.
Especially in the last few laps.
Definitely. I've got to say, it's interesting to see Swizzy not on the podium for the sprint race. I'm sure obviously he'll use all of the kind of the practice and the race experience from the sprint, go into quali with a different kind of mindset, and I'm sure he'll be back on the podium for the feature race. But yeah, I mean, I've got to say, everyone was really close together. I've never kind of seen more impressive drives from the races tonight. I think they've all kind of done themselves really proud in the sprint race. It's never easy. It's kind of like the sprint races in Formula 1. It's never easy to kind of have minimal practice, go into a race without qualifying. So for them to go into the race straight off the bat without any qualifying, the drivers did really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said before the race, like strong defensive drivers, as we say, with
Deadline would do quite well round here, to which he has done well round here. Finish second.
Yes, indeed. He definitely has. Evening, Mario. Next we have the sprint. We have the qualifying for the feature race. This week we're running it slightly different. That we have the sprint race up first, then the qualifying, and then the feature race. The sprint race, the grid was set as a reverse championship order. So we had kind of the people that are down in the championship order, starting at the front, getting up close to the front battles, getting a good amount of points, and everyone doing a phenomenal job. We then have the qualifying coming up next. Obviously, all the drivers just taking a little bit of a break before they go out and qualify. But as I didn't get the chance beforehand, we will run through the track facts for tonight. If anyone has any standout moments from the sprint race, please do let me know. It was definitely a close one. So, as you can see, tonight we are racing at the legendary Nürburgring. We are using the GP layout, which is 5.1 kilometres or 3.2 miles long and has 15 turns in total. Let's delve into more about the history of this iconic track. So, the Nürburgring was opened on the 18th of June 1927 and is located within Nürburgring, Germany. The Grand Prix track layout was completed in 1984 and named GP Streck. It was built to meet the highest safety standards. However, it was considered in character a mere shadow of its older sibling. The 1984 Nürburgring Race of Champions featured an array of notable drivers driving identical Mercedes 190Es. Besides other international events, the Nürburgring has seen the brief return of Formula 1 racing as the 1984 European Grand Prix was held at the track, followed by the 1985 German Grand Prix. Following the success and first World Championship of Michael Schumacher, a second German F1 race was held at the Nürburgring between 1995 and 2006. This was called the European Grand Prix, or in 1997 and 1998, the Luxembourg Grand Prix. In 2020, it was called the Eiffel Grand Prix. It was won by Lewis Hamilton, who in that race equalled Michael Schumacher's records of win at 91 wins. Prior to the 2007 European Grand Prix, the Audi S turns 8 and 9 was renamed Michael Schumacher's S, after Michael Schumacher had retired from Formula 1 the year before, but the Nürburgring was considered as one of his home tracks. Obviously, he grew up quite close, about an hour away from the track. I think we could talk about this track all day and all evening, and its different variations such as the Nordschleife. But Kirk, what are your thoughts about this track tonight?
The Nürburgring isn't really a track I've driven on GT7, although I have put plenty of hours hot lapping this in other driving games such as Assetto Corsa. I think, as we saw in the sprint race, you don't have to be the quickest driver at this track. Track position is really everything around here, because there are not really a lot of overtaking opportunities. As we saw with Deadline, if you're a good defensive driver and you can get good exits out of corners, you can do really well. Although there is a few overtaking chances around here, such as into turn one. If you can get a good exit off the final corner and get a good run into turn one, you can always challenge someone into turn one. And then obviously into the Dunlop curve, you can obviously outbrake your opponent into there and use the camber of the corner to really hook the car around the corner. And we've also got the run there down the back straight, the advanced straight into the chicane. If you can again get a really good exit from there, you can challenge someone into the chicane, as we saw in the sprint race. I think it was he going round the outside of the straight into the chicane on Pedro. Again, to be here again, you need to, like most tracks around here, you have to be really committed into the fast corners, and then in the middle part of the track, really hook them curbs and use the camber of the circuit to be able to pull your car in and around. Yeah, sir. I think yeah, a very technical, very high skill circuit. But if you know what you're doing, you can go quite well around here.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up perfectly there. It's one of those tracks that, again, I don't have much personal experience around here. The little kind of experience I do have, I've always enjoyed this track and its different variations. I know obviously not everyone's a fan of the Nürburgring and its several different layouts, but I've got to say I've always enjoyed racing around here. It proves for some quite close but challenging racing, which we've already kind of seen in the sprint race so far. So if anything, that kind of sets us up nicely for a 29 lap race around here shortly after qualifying.
Who do you think will see do well in the sprint race, Sarah, or do well in qualifying in the feature race, shall I say?
Ooh. After seeing the kind of the sprint race, I think Kai could be in a good shout for maybe taking the pole position.
Yeah, I agree. As we saw in the sprint race, if say someone like Twizzy doesn't have a good qualifying session and gets stuck behind in the mid pack, it'll really allow Key to come to stretch his feet at the front of the grid. Or maybe we can see Key the Kai doing what he did last week, qualify on the soft tyres, get that track position, and just disappear off the start and try and hold track position for the rest of the race, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, getting the grip around this track is crucial with the amount of curbs and the curbs on the exit and the apex. If you kind of catch them wrong, the car feels like it's a completely different car underneath you. So yeah, I think the traction and the exit speeds around here will be crucial for all of the drivers tonight. And I mean, to be fair, all the drivers I can't really say a bad word about so far. They've all shown that even the sprint race before the quali, they're more than capable of providing us with a lot of entertainment and phenomenal racing as always. So yeah, really, really proud of the drivers so far. Hoping for that all again in qualifying and in the feature race.
Absolutely. Do you think we could see anybody go up further up the grid to where expected? So, like as we saw, Deadline did quite well. Do you think we could see him challenging the top 5 or top 6 in qualifying, and obviously using that Mazda's straight line speed to overtake a few people during the race, Sarah?
I think he's in a good shout actually for another good performance. Obviously, unfortunately, a little bit laggy within that sprint race, but he seems quite fast in the RX vision around here. So yeah, I think definitely an honourable shout for quite high up for the feature race. But as we kind of round out that, we'll go to qualifying. All cars should be heading out on track. I think they're all on their flying laps now for our 10-minute qualifying session. So let's see how this track will push our first drivers and who will take the pole position for our 6th race of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my money's looking at the tyres. We see K Dekai on the softs and Swizzy qualifying on the mediums. I think my money's probably on K Dekai again to take pole round here. And seeing the pace as some of the runners in the sprint race, we could possibly see the likes of Midnight and Swizzy possibly challenging Midnight and Pedro challenging Swizzy maybe for that P2 spot, Sarah.
Yeah, and obviously that will shake things up a little bit in the drivers' championship standings. Swizzy currently running away with it with an astonishing amount of points because he's always doing really well. But yeah, I think if say Katie Dekai can get a win here with say Deadline picking up a good amount of points, will definitely shake the championship up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our big battle here today for the championship is for 4th between Pedro and Lee, is it, or Simrace Dude?
Yeah, we have, I believe, as I have it right here, we'll bring it up on the screen as well. So currently we have Swizzy in 1st with 315. We then have Katie the Kai on 252, Mac on 198. Then in 4th we have Simrace Dude with 162, Pedro in 5th with 159. So not much in between Simrace Dude and Pedro. And in 6th place we have Lee with 149 points. So relatively close between the 3 of them there. So we could see potentially someone new going into that 4th place and shaking up that battle for the 4th place in the drivers' standings. I mean, as we see everyone go round, feel free, Kirk, if you want to kind of run down anyone else in the standings, anyone that you've been impressed with throughout the season so far, or anybody you want to talk about in the standings.
I think Bertie is very impressive for me. You know, obviously someone we see who isn't the quickest driver about, but obviously he keeps it clean, keeps it consistent, stays out of trouble, and obviously we can see here it really pays off by being 7th in our standings. Compared to like full-time runners like Stephen or Fred, and Kudos for that matter. Yeah, I think Lee's probably, well, not Lee, Bertie's my biggest underrated driver of the season so far, Sarah.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. He's been quiet, not much drama obviously on track, but he's been very, very consistent. He's always kind of picking up a lot of points with some unique strategies as well along the way. So yeah, I've got to agree with that. Bertie's been kind of the driver to kind of watch in that mid pack. But apart from that, I've got to say, while we're obviously looking at the standings, a lot of drivers have improved a lot since the start of the season, which has been really nice to see. Obviously, throughout the season, it's good to see that they've kind of all got together as a community, helping each other with certain tracks that they're not kind of familiar with. So it's been good to see all of the drivers improving throughout the season, and hopefully we'll see the same for the next coming tracks. We have 2 left after tonight, and then we'll be focusing on season number 2. But we will go back to the qualifying. Kirk, if you want to run me down what the grid is looking like at the moment. We've got a few laps left. Obviously, this is only a 10-minute session, so not a lot of laps around this in qualifying this track. But yeah, feel free if you want to kind of run me down the grid.
We see, so currently on provisional poll right now, we had Katie Kai, who is currently 2.2 seconds faster than Swizzy. Obviously that's not all skill related because Katie Kai is on the soft tyre compared to Swizzy's mediums. Then 6/10, or about 6.5 tenths back from Swizzy, we have Manley, followed by further 2 tenths back by Deadline, who's doing very well in P4 right now. Fifth sim race dude, again, he must be very impressed with where he is currently out qualifying both Midnight and Pedro in 6th and 7th place. Them two not split by very much, only a 10th and a half. P8 we have Ziggy, obviously doing very well here today, here in this race after finishing an unfortunate P14 in the sprint race. We have Fred P9, who I'm almost certain is going to improve. Followed by Koulios again, as we see Koulios improve, setting a 58.2, going up to P8. We have Bertie in 11th, who again I think he's probably going to improve a bit more, possibly challenge the likes of the top 8. Then we have Stephen in P12, Lee in 13, who I think is yet to set a really competitive lap time. And then right at the back of the pack, we have Nick. I think a few of our drivers are getting held up a little bit on their laps, Sarah. All right. Did you lose me, Sarah?
Sorry, I am back. Just taking a quick swig of some water. Commentators, we've got to look after our voice. But yeah, I was just cycling through everybody. I've got to say the gap between Sim Race Dude and Midnight is next to nothing, which just goes to show how kind of matched our drivers are in terms of performance and their cars, which is always good to see.
I mean, the gap between Pedro and the previous gap between Pedro and Midnight was only about 300ths of a second. As we see Pedro improving up to P5 now, going 2.5 tenths clear of both Sim Race Dude and Midnight. Do you think he'll be happy with that lap, Sarah?
I reckon so. We always kind of have that thing in Swizzy into the pit, sorry. But yeah, the feature race is one of those things, if the drivers in front of you, say, get turn 1 slightly wrong, opportunity of being slightly further back to kind of see or get past them, it's always beneficial to kind of get their slipstream. So I think obviously Midnight just pipping up into 5th place as well. I think those drivers will be happy with that, because obviously the feature race, is an hour long, so it's not quite so fast paced. It's more a call of strategy, and we all know that the drivers have a unique array of strategy calls. So I'm intrigued to see kind of what they go for. Obviously Kai will be starting on the softs, Swizzy on the mediums. I feel like Kai, he always likes to go for that soft. He always likes to get kind of off of the starting line as quickly as he can and try and build that gap. But yeah, all the drivers are on their final lap now, and currently our pole position goes to KD the Kai with a 2-second gap between him and Swizzy. Obviously KD the Kai on that softer compound of tyres. But Kirk, if you would like to run me down from KD the Kai.
I'm just looking at the battle on track right now, Sarah, for who's going to take P5 on this qualifying, as we see both Pedro and Luke both improving on their current lap times. I think Pedro set a 57.4 going P5, taking it away from Luke for now. Luke has to find about 2.5 tenths on this lap to really be able to transfer it, and he's 4 tenths up, 4.5 tenths up. Does Luke have what it takes to beat Pedro and possibly beat the deadline on this starting grid? Something that I'm sure he'll be ecstatic about as he goes in towards the final corner, breaking at the 100-meter bar. He takes a lot of that left curb, takes a lot of that right curb. Perfect exit, no wheel spin at all as he comes into the final corner. Can he hook it up? No hesitation on the throttle. That rear end just is planted. Can he improve? Can he beat Pedro? He goes 6 tenths faster. He beats Pedro to P5. Can't quite beat McManley or Deadline to steal P4 or P3. But P5, Sarah, I think Luke will be absolutely ecstatic for P5 and to outqualify the likes of Pedro as well.
Yeah, I mean, very, very impressive qualifying there from Midnight. I think he'll be definitely happy to kind of start in 5th place, not too far away from the podium. If he can kind of get that few opening laps spot on, I reckon he'll be another good shout for the podium potentially. And before we go into the feature race, thank you, Mario, for your feedback. We're always kind of looking for feedback. If anyone does have any feedback or kind of wants to talk to us about anything, please feel free to kind of message one of the admin or the organisers, and we'll be sure to take your feedback on board. But we are getting ready for 29 laps around the Nürburgring GP layout. Excited, Kirk?
Absolutely. I think we already see a range of strategies at the front of the pack here. So we got both Katie, Kai and Deadline both starting on the soft tyre. Swizzy possibly in a bit of trouble if he don't get a good start and gets overtaken by Deadline off the start. This could be Katie the Kai's race to win because we know just how well Deadline is at defending, and if he defends against Swizzy could be stuck behind him for 2-3 laps, maybe more. I think the ball is now in Katie the Kai's court for this race for who to win, for a win and a loss, Sarah.
Yeah, and I think Katie the Kai will definitely be looking to kind of get that first place, close the gap between himself and Swizzy in the drivers' standings. But if I'm going to run down from 1st to 8th, Kirk, if you want to run down from 9th onwards. So this is our starting grid for the feature race, our 6th race of the season at the Nürburgring GP. We have Katie the Kai in our pole position with a 1:54.2 lap, a flying lap. Obviously going 2 seconds quicker than Swizzy, our leader in the championship at the moment. We then have Swizzy in 2nd with that 1:56. Deadline in the RX division in 3rd. Again, I think he'll be very happy with that in 3rd place, considering towards the start of the season he has been struggling with that Lamborghini. Next to him we have his good friend McManley in 4th place. Again, we've got a slightly different livery for McManley today. We'll be definitely showing that off during the race. Behind McManley, we have the Nighthawk Racing co-founder, Midnight ISO, in that McLaren. Again, very, very good qualifying from Midnight. Just beating Pedro to that 5th place. And like Kirk said, he'll be very happy with that, I'm sure. We then have Pedro, one of our Nighthawk admin team, in P6 in the Genesis. Simrace Dude in 7th, another astounding qualifying session for Simrace Dude. Again, in that Aston Martin, he seems to extract every element of performance. Next, we then have Koulios in 8th place in the RX division. It's good to see him back out on track. And Kirk, if you could run me down from 9th to 14th, and sorry to interrupt you there, go for it.
So about 3 tenths further back from Koulios, we have Fred in the Mercedes. I'm sure he'd be a bit disappointed at P9. Probably thinking if he hooked a lap up, he could be up there towards the front of the pack. Then P10 we have Ziggy, followed by Lee in 11th, 30 in 12th, Even in 13th, and then Nick Bryan up the back of the pack in 14th, Sarah.
We do, yes. So, as we get ready, it's nearly lights out, and away we go. Kirk, if you want to take us through the first opening corners.
No worries. We see Swizzy absolutely launching away from the straight line. Not a great start from Deadline on the soft tyres. He would really want to make most of those, and we see Swizzy up the inside of Katie Kai. It'll be crucial for Swizzy to get past here, try and hold Katie Kai up on them softer tyres, but he can't chance. Katie Kai gets much better traction out on the exit of the first corner to be able to lead into turn 2. We have Deadline and McManley going side by side into turn 3. A little bit of contact there, but we see Deadline trying to hold it around the outside and up the back of the inside, and Deadline it holds positions for now. Followed by Midnight, Pedro, Simrace Dude, Fred, Ziggy, up quite a few places up into P9, followed by Lee, who's got a second penalty, Stephen in P11, Kudos in 12th, 30 in 13th, who's also got a penalty, and then Nick round at the back of the pack. It looks like everyone's escaped any drama. No one's got any damage, so it's just a few time penalties for people towards the back of the pack. I'm not sure if you saw anything kick off at the back of the pack, Sarah.
No, I didn't. I've got to say, I was keeping my eye on the KD the Kai and Swizzy Bao out in front. The two GTRs going at it again. But yeah, like you said, I think a lot of drivers escape kind of that first few corner lap incidents. Unfortunately, a track like this, you can pick up a few penalties here and there with the track limits, but it's a long race to go, so hopefully these penalties won't affect the drivers too much.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this towards. We don't see this very often. Swizzy being pushed around the corners by Deadline. Swizzy is someone who's not very often under attack from people. Is being basically Deadline sat on his bumper around those S's in the middle sector. As we see, they're coming out the final corner. Can Deadline get a good exit? I guess it was an okay exit. Nothing compared to Swizzy. But is the gap? It's closing. Is Deadline going to be close enough to go for a gap? I think it's a bit too far back to really try it. But he breaks a bit. He thought about it. He pulls out to the inside just a little bit, maybe trying to catch Swizzy off guard a little bit. But as we said, they're better traction of them soft tyres, and he is again all pushing Swizzy around the corner, Sarah.
Yeah, those two seem to be quite closely matched in today's feature race. Like you say, Swizzy doesn't usually come under attack from any of the drivers. He's usually quite far ahead within the first few opening laps. But it's good to see some of the other drivers kind of battling with him. Yeah, I mean, Deadline looks a little bit more kind of stable at the moment, not glitching around too much. So hopefully we might see a Deadline kind of retain that podium position, if not a really good result. I think obviously the sprint race is difficult. Go for it, Kirk.
See Deadline putting a wheel onto the gravel there and getting all sorts of loose on the exit. But this is probably what he wants. This is going to allow him to really attack these S's and put Swizzy under more pressure into the chicane. He's just got to focus on getting a good exit of this right-hander. Comes in, meets the apex. Can he? I think Swizzy got a better exit, so Swizzy is still just going to be able to hold Deadline off for now. Swizzy is doing exactly what he needs to do right now, focusing on the corner exits, not allowing Deadline to get a good run on him, and preventing Deadline from really making use of those soft tyres, and keeping the Kai in his sights, Sarah.
Yeah. I mean, we're only 2 laps in, and obviously some interesting battles emerging. Anyone that you kind of think is either done well or you're surprised with so far? Obviously, onto our 3rd lap now, we've got some quite close battles throughout the grid. You never know where to kind of keep your eye on, but where are you keeping your eye on at the moment?
I think down towards the back of the pack we see Stephen, who started P12, battling for P8 with both Fred and Koulios. I think a very good start from Stephen, or a very good start in few laps from Stephen, and hopefully we can see more things to come from this race. As they all sort themselves out, or Stephen looking around the outside of Fred coming into this next corner. Fred, squeezing Stephen right to the edge. Oh, Stephen puts a wheel on the grass. Oh, that's getting a bit tight there, wasn't it? A bit close there, wasn't it, Sarah?
It was. It's quite a close track, this. There's not much room. There's a few taken opportunities, but yeah, the white lines and the curves and the dirt around here are definitely not one to mess with.
As we see again, Swizzy coming under threat from Deadline. Deadline almost going into the back of Swizzy, battling for P2 here. And can he do it this time?
Oh, Fred
He's got
has gone off somewhere. I will try and see if I can get that on replay. I believe it was through the Schumacher S's, which again is a very difficult part of this track. We'll just see what's gone on here. Oh, just goes a little bit wide into that first part of the Schumacher S, which obviously lets Lee, Koulios and Stephen get ahead of him. And that closes Bertie and Ziggy closing in on that pack now, which is good to see all the drivers are relatively close together.
We've seen Deadline go up the inside of Swizzy into turn 1. Going up the inside, can he outbrake Swizzy? He can. Is in front. Meets the apex. Parks it on the apex to prevent Swizzy from doing the cutback. Swizzy trying to hold it around the outside. Can he cut back into turn 3? No, he can't. He can't go the speed around the outside. He has to sit in behind for now. Swizzy obviously has done what he needs to done quite well here, being able to hold Deadline up for as long as he had done. But now he's just got to drive his own race. Maybe keeping the slipstream of Deadline if he can, because obviously every little bit of time saved helps. Maybe save a little bit of fuel if he can keep up in the corners. Yeah, Deadline through, Sarah. Do you think this helps KD the car in the long run?
I think it definitely won't hurt KD the Kai. Obviously, that gap is around 4.9. Well, it's just gone up to 5 seconds as I say that between KD the Kai and Deadline. I think KD the Kai will definitely be looking in his rearview mirror, but he'll also be looking ahead of that nice clear track that he's got ahead and thinking, now's the time to build that gap as much as I can before, obviously, the first pit stop.
Who do you think's in prime position for the podium here, Sarah?
Oh, I mean, I've got to say, KD the Kai and Deadline, they seem to be quite confident around here. I wouldn't write Swizzy off. We all know the performance that Swizzy can kind of extract from that GTR. Maybe we found a track that the GTR doesn't necessarily favour, but I definitely wouldn't write him off. He's got some good strategy calls as well. I mean, McManley's only 2.5 seconds behind that lot, but to be honest, I don't know who to pick, because the gap from first down to about 6 is relatively close together, so they're all kind of in contention at the moment. And like I said earlier, the strategy will play a huge game towards the end of the race. What about yourself, Kirk? Is there anyone that you feel kind of early predictions, early doors? Is there anyone that you think is going to get that podium?
I think realistically it's going to depend on how well Deadline and KD the Kai can defend. Obviously, we're seeing, if we compare lap times from the drivers on full fuel, KD the Kai is about a second and a half, 1.3 seconds quicker than Swizzy on average per lap. Obviously, Swizzy now being stuck behind Deadline, who is slower than KD the Kai in the corners, is really going to help KD the Kai keep that gap up a bit bigger. But when the current medium runners move to soft tyres, and it's the opposite, where it'll be the likes of KD the Kai and Deadline being hunted down by the faster drivers behind on the softer tyres. I think that's when we'll really see it all plan out. See how well they can hold their nerve when they have the drivers on the faster tyres behind them.
Yeah, obviously, like you've alluded to there, we have KD the Guy and Deadline both on softs, Swizzy on the set of mediums. Obviously, he will be able to go slightly longer than the soft runners in front of him. So, like I said a minute ago, I wouldn't write Swizzy off. He can go a little bit longer, and I'm sure when the two soft runners come in, he'll look to kind of extend that gap as much as he can. I'm just going to look further down the field. We've got Steven still in the top 10, which is a really, really good showing from him. We've got Lee just behind and Bertie just behind that. So we've got our own little group here forming. I mean, that group... We've also got Fred, Ziggy, Bertie, Lee and Stephen separated by about 2 seconds. So I'll definitely be keeping my eye on this little battle here. I think a lot of the drivers here will be looking to get further up, grab a few more points, but all doing a really good job so far.
So earlier in the lap, as you were talking, I was on board with Swizzy as Swizzy attacked Deadline into turn 1. It seemed in turn 3, it seemed to be getting a little bit, turn 2 and 3, it seemed a little bit close, a little bit of rubbing between the two drivers. Nothing too bad, but it's certainly getting feisty between a second and third place, which allowed McManley to catch up a little bit, Sarah.
Yeah, and I think McManley will be happy to get involved in that fight between the two GTRs and the RX Vision of Deadline. Like, I think Swizzy's biding his time. He's kind of letting that soft runners in front of him go, get that tyre wear down. Obviously in the mediums he can go that a little bit longer. So maybe he's kind of, like you say, being a little bit tentative, but also kind of knowing that it's not his time to race them. He's on a different strategy. So maybe he's kind of waiting for his time to get into first and to drive away before he has to pit himself.
We go into turn 1 again. We have Swizzy tucking up in behind Deadline. That gap closing 2.5 tenths. It's down to 2 tenths. Swizzy closing, close. Does he pull out to the inside? He pulls out to the inside. Can he outbrake Deadline in turn 1? He meets the apex, keeps it tight to the apex, but this gives Deadline the favoured line to really carry momentum around the outside, and Deadline holds it for now. Can Swizzy try looking for the cutback, but it's not quite there. But Deadline defends, forces him to go deep into the next corner. Swizzy up the inside. Can he hold it the extra momentum around the outside? He goes a bit wide. Oh, gets on the AstroTurf and loses the rear end a little bit. Can Deadline challenge into the next corner? No, he can't. Deadline sits behind him now, but he tries to outbrake Swizzy to hold it around the outside, but Swizzy keeps it on inside line and gains the position, Sarah.
Yeah, oh, just as we went on board with Mac there, slightly behind, makes a little bit of a half spin, which lets Pedro into 4th place, and he'll be looking to get closer to Swizzy and Deadline. But yeah, what a move from Deadline and Swizzy, fighting through those first couple of corners, showing that two drivers can get around the corner at once. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, it always looks good and provides us with some good overtakes.
Is this the turning point, though? Is this where the soft tyres may be becoming slightly worse than the medium tyre, Sarah?
I reckon you've hit the nail on the head there, Kirk, as we see Deadline's tyres looking about half worn, where Swizzy's mediums is about a quarter worn. So yeah, Swizzy can go a lot longer at this point than Deadline in that RX Vision. So I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Oh.
I think Deadline might be struggling a little bit.
It's like Deadline may have tagged Swizzy a little bit into the final corner. I don't know if you got a replay of that, Sarah. I saw it on your side.
I did see it on my side. It did look a little bit close for comfort, but the two obviously getting no damage, not losing too much time to themselves and to Pedro behind them. Yeah, I mean, Deadline's probably looking at Swizzy thinking, I need to know where you brake, what racing line that you're going to take, biding his time. So if towards the end of the race, obviously when they've both pitted, they could come out quite close to each other again and be fighting for that 2nd place on the podium. But as we say, KD the Kai has got 13-second gaps to these two behind them. So, I mean, KD the Kai, what a performance he's having today.
Yeah, obviously them two battling is really playing into his favour right now. Obviously when they go side by side, it allows KD Kai to push the gap a bit further. Although we've seen Swizzy overcome bigger gap, as we saw at Autopolis, we saw Swizzy overcome a near 20-second gap from Jabril to win the race, Sarah.
Yes, very true. Very true. And what a last lap, kind of action-packed lap that was. I remember that for sure. Oh, as Fred just tags Koulios, but he's going to wait for him. Oh, Koulios spinning onto the grass, which is very easy to do around this track. But yeah, like Kirk was saying, we all know that Swizzy, towards the end of the lap, he definitely turns that GTR into some sort of rocket ship. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again here. And but I think he's waiting for his time. Obviously, he knows Katie the Guy and Deadline, the two that are kind of around him at the moment. They are on the softs, and the tyre wear around here, obviously 8 laps in, they are probably going to start looking worse shortly. But he'll be kind of waiting for his time, for his clean bit of the track where he doesn't have to fight, and he'll be looking to extend that gap. But as I'm just looking through the pack, everyone kind of settled into the race nicely. We've got, Kirk, if you want to run down from P1 to, say, P7 for me.
Certainly. So leading the way quite dominantly so far, obviously being on the soft tyres compared to the people behind. We have Katie the Kai leading the way from Swizzy by about 13 and a half seconds. We're seeing the soft tyres are a bit second hand now, so expect Swizzy to start closing that gap up now. That takes us on to second place for Swizzy. Obviously lost a little bit of time battling with Deadline in the previous few laps, but I'm sure he'll be focused on trying to close that gap down now, or while just keeping it clean, trying to avoid penalties that we saw cost him in the sprint race. Then we have Deadline P3. He'll be very happy with his race so far. Managed to hold Deadline up a little, Swizzy up a little bit, thanks to his soft tyres. So any time that he can cost Swizzy now is time that he can make up later on in the race. About 4.5 seconds behind Deadline, we have Pedro driving a very solid race today. P4 right now, could possibly challenge Deadline later on in the race when the roles are reversed, where he has the softer tyres and is quicker than Deadline. But that's all to come. About 6 seconds behind Pedro, we have McManley, who we saw half spin earlier, which cost him a bit of time. Again, I wouldn't put it. McManley is again a really fast driver, especially when he's on the soft tyre. So I wouldn't count McManley out of a podium just yet. Although I have a habit of saying McManley will get a podium, and it never seems to come to fruition. Behind McManley in P6, about 4 seconds back, we have Midnight. Very quiet race from Midnight so far. But he's doing what's needed to be. If you look at his lap times on the right hand side of the screen, they're all consistent. They're all between a mid 58 and a low 59. So he's keeping it clean, keeping it consistent, and doing what he needs to do to pick up any scraps, saying if someone at the front has an incident or goes off. And then the last of this so-called front pack is Sim Race Dude in P7. About 2 seconds back from Midnight, keeping Midnight honest. So if Midnight does end up making a mistake, Sim Race Dude is there to capitalise on that error.
Thank you very much for running down from P1 to P7, and providing that insight on all the drivers. Very good job there, Kirk. Thank you very much. As I take over from you, we're going to look at Stephen down in 8th place, doing really well in the top 10. He's about 22 seconds behind the front pack of Sim Race Dude. Oh, sorry to interrupt that. Swizzy coming in before the soft runners. Now that's something I didn't expect to see. Potentially maybe taking on some fuel, but not what I expected to see 10 laps into the race. Interesting.
He thinks them mediums aren't working for him.
Maybe. We all know that the mediums sometimes can feel a little bit blocky. So maybe he's wanting to kind of get off them as soon as he can, take on some fuel and go for quite a long stint. But as I go back to Stephen in P8, he'll obviously close that gap to Swizzy, who's coming out of the pits. But doing really well in P8 in that Porsche 911. Then behind him, about 1.5 seconds behind, we have Lee. As I said, Lee, quite consistent. He'll be looking to pick up some points tonight. Someone is sent wide into the chicane. Swizzy was just in the pits, so he was just coming out of the pits. But on board with Lee. Then about 1 second behind, we have Fred in P10. Kulios in P11. Bertie in P12. We then have Ziggy into the pits in P13, taking on some tyre and some fuel. And then we have Nick down in 14th, again driving a really good race. It's good to see everyone still in the race. We're about 11 laps in, and we have 2 battles across the grid. We obviously have that about P1 to P7. The positions are constantly changing, and then from about P8 downwards, we have everyone quite close to each other. So yeah, 2 groups forming, a lot of battles happening, and it's been a really good race so far. But we have Swizzy down in 7th place, so going in quite early. Kirk, any thoughts about that?
Yeah. As I said, obviously he must think that the medium tyres aren't really working for him. Obviously seeing how well KD the Kai is doing on his soft tyres, obviously taking him 12 laps without really dropping off too much. He thinks that doing probably 2 more stops for soft, doing double soft to the end is probably the way to go for him. It'd be interesting to see what KD the Kai does, because obviously from here we expect Swizzy to pit again. But if KD the Kai can probably go to lap 13 or 14, could he possibly take the set of mediums to the end and then let Swizzy do all the hard work at catching him up towards the end of the race, Sarah?
I'm not going to say no. Never say never. I think there's a possibility for sure that KD the Kai could be pulling off a 1-stop race, as we see Swizzy on those set of softs already setting a purple sector 1. So I think, again, Kirk, you've hit the nail on the head there. Maybe Swizzy wasn't feeling 100% comfortable on those soft set, the medium tyres, switching to the softs. He's going faster and faster. But yeah, I mean, Kai, if we go on board with him now, the tyres are looking worse for wear. He's got about a quarter tank of fuel on board. He could potentially maybe go for a 1-stop. Obviously, towards the end of the race, he might feel it a little bit more compared to Swizzy, who looks like he's on for a 2-stop. Obviously, he'll be a little bit faster towards the end. So, again, it's setting up for a quite close finish between the 2 GTRs. I'm excited. We're only 13 laps in, but there's been battles across the grid. There's always some sort of action. I've got to say, I'm massively impressed by all the drivers tonight. I think they're doing a stellar job. As we look on board with KD the Kai, 21-second gap to deadline in second. He has, Kai is one to talk about today. He's had a performance of his lifetime in that GTR around the Nürburgring GP. He seems to be in a completely different GTR to what we've seen previously. I'm sure he'll definitely be enjoying this race so far.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he hasn't put a foot wrong so far this race. It'll be interesting to see, once again, towards later on in this race, where we see Swizzy hunting him down on, obviously Swizzy roles being reversed, where it'll be KD the Kai on the medium tyre and Swizzy on the soft. Yeah, I think it'll be all about KD the Kai holding his nerve now. We're seeing obviously the occasional mistake before in previous rounds have cost him. Obviously, we saw it in Fiji making that slight mistake on the exit of turn 1. Yeah. I think realistically, unfortunately, my money is still on Swizzy to win. Swizzy on softs is going to be unstoppable, and Swizzy. We saw a slight lapse in judgment in the sprint race where he made two mistakes to get him picking up 2 half-second penalties. But I think right now Swizzy is in the zone, and it's game on. Game on.
Yeah, as we see deadline, you go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, see deadline going into the pits. Obviously, the left-hand side of those soft tyres looking a lot worse for wear, and it'd be interesting to see where he comes out compared to Swizzy with the undercut, Sarah.
Yes, it will. If we stay on board with Swizzy, he looks to be coming across the start-finish straight now, so he is going to jump deadline in the pits. He is going to
quite
jump
comfortably.
Yeah, quite comfortably indeed. I think, well, we all know Swizzy is a mastermind when it comes to racing, but that is really clever racing so far from Swizzy, going in for that pit stop early is extended the gap between himself and deadline, which will then bring him closer to KD the Kai at the end of the race. So yeah, Swizzy is always full of surprises, and I've got to say today he's putting off some quite interesting strategy calls, but I'm sure.
Oh no, KD the Kai going a lap too long as it's being held up by lap traffic of Koulios and Steven. Koulios, get out of the way into the final. Koulios doesn't get out of the way into the final chicane.
No.
Maybe that needs to be looked at by the stewards.
Potentially, but I think, KD the Kai coming into the pits now. Good catch there, Kirk. I wasn't expecting KD the Kai to catch up the back markers, but potentially losing some time in the long run behind Koulios. Let's see where he comes out. Obviously, Pedro might close that gap, but Pedro himself will be looking probably to pit soon. As I said that, commentator's curse, but not commentator's curse. Pedro and McManley come into the pits.
I think it's probably they've come in a bit too early. We're looking at the field, they didn't really have much choice. I think realistically they've come in too early to really make the one stop work. I think money's still on KD the Kai to make a one stop, depending on how much fuel he takes here. He'd probably have to take a full tank of fuel to get here to the end. You see, Swizzy is jumped Kai in the pits. However, we know Swizzy is going to have to pit again, and KD the Kai, if he's out on mediums, KD the Kai is going to the end of this race on those mediums. It is race on, Sarah, between Swizzy and KD the Kai.
It definitely is indeed. It's heating up.
Do you think Swizzy has what it takes to be able to do the extra pit stop and then catch and overtake KD the Kai, Sarah?
Like I said a minute ago, Swizzy is full of surprises. I'm not going to say that he won't be able to. I reckon the race is on, as you said, Kirk. I think Swizzy will be looking to extend that gap that he's picked up. Obviously, we'll jump on board with him. That gap is about 13 seconds between him and KD the Kai. He'll be looking to extend that on the set of softs that he's in. But saying that, look how much tyre wear Swizzy has already got on the softs. So I don't know, it's going to be close. It's going to be very close indeed. I think as Swizzy picks up a half-second penalty, commentator's curse, very apologetic that Swizzy as we were on board with him, he did pick up a half-second penalty, but I think it's too early to tell if Swizzy is going to win this. I think it will be very close. KD the Kai, I think, we'll be looking to go on that one-stop strategy and make sure it works to close that gap to Swizzy in the Drivers' Championship. But as Swizzy is just coming up behind Midnight leading by about half a second gap. I think Midnight will be kind of bathing in the glory of racing with Swizzy as they go into the first corner.
leading the lap of the race, I think, is will make Luke more than happy enough, Sarah. Obviously, keep him well out the way for Swizzy, and Swizzy go up the inside into turn 1.
Yeah, a lot of respect there,
Not
but
to
I
say-
think Midnight knows that it's not necessarily his battle at the moment.
Absolutely. You probably heard in my voice last night how excited I got when I realised we're gonna have another case of Swizzy chasing someone down for the win. But it'll be also to see where he comes out compares to the likes of Pedro and McManley. Um, will he have to overtake them both again, or will it will just be a straight chase to the end, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, as we go board with Katie Zakai obviously picking up that medium set, Pedro going to a set of softs. Pedro probably be looking to maybe pit again. It depends how the tyre wear is on that Genesis. But yeah, some interesting calls for tyres between Swizzy, Pedro, Katie Zakai. If you see what McManley's on, McManley's gone to a set of softs as well. So I don't know if the people that have gone onto the softs are going to make it to the end. So they'll probably be looking to pit again. So I mean, Swizzy and Katie the Kai are looking in good form for yet another podium visit and a visit to the podium room after the race is finished. I mean, any thoughts on that, Kirk, from you?
I think, yeah, Swizzy's certainly looking at another look to the podium room. Looking down the grid, I think realistically the people who have enough fuel to go to the end are Katie the Kai, McManley, possibly Deadline, and that'd be about it. It seems a bit borderline between Koulios and Fred, but Lee is also definitely going to the end of the race now. They're certainly looking at pushing these soft tyres quite long in this final stint, Sarah.
Yes, they are indeed. Ziggy is retiring to the pits. Sorry to hear that, Ziggy. Hopefully next week will provide kind of better racing, and obviously hopefully your will decides to work for next week at Suzuka. But unfortunately, sorry to hear that you're retiring. But I mean, we were on board with you for a few laps at the start of the race. You're doing really well. Sorry to hear that your will is not working. But yes, thank you as always for being here. As we are on board with Fred, giving a little bit of a flash to Nick in front.
So you see Fred and Lee battling for position, with Lee possibly having the advantage right now, being on the soft tyre compared to Fred's mediums, Sarah.
Yeah. Was just looking at that myself, the two different compounds in Fred and Lee. They're quite close together. Obviously Lee will have probably the pace over Fred in the few upcoming laps, but Fred will be able to go that little bit longer on that set of mediums. But obviously the two in 11th and 10th, they'll be looking to swap positions, get closer to Koulios in 9th place. But again, it's good to see everyone really close together as we go through the grid. Obviously we'll keep an eye on this battle between 11th and 10th. But as we go to 9th, we have Koulios, Bertie, and he's kind of 2.9 seconds, 3 seconds away from Midnight, who has pitted and gone for a set of softs. Do we reckon he'll be trying to extend that to the end? We all know Midnight can go some unique strategy calls, to say the least. So do we reckon he can go to the end on that set of softs?
I think maybe fuel, it could be a bit borderline with Luke. So
You're obviously not taking a full tank.
Saving. Yeah, you're not taking full tank, so you might need a little bit of lifting toast. But you'll certainly be looking at challenging the likes of Pedro for a P4 finish. Or actually, maybe challenging for P4 finish because everyone in front of him is probably going to have to stop again, Sarah.
Yeah, a lot of soft runners out there. Obviously going for the alternative strategy of going on the mediums to begin with, going that little bit further into the race, and then switching to that set of softs towards the back end of the race, so they're a little bit faster and provides a bit more overtaking opportunities. I'm going to say that a lot of people that I didn't expect to go on the softs did go on the softs, so it looks like the track is kind of, it suits the soft tyres that a little bit more than the mediums, so I wouldn't hold our breath that we're probably going to see a lot faster times for the drivers coming in shortly.
I'm just looking at. Oh, we see Pedro picking up a half-second penalty, unfortunately there. But we also see a wild Kyrgios up into P8, driving a very impressive race, Sarah.
Indeed, yeah, Kyrgios has been really good. Like I been saying the whole race, it's good to see him back in the driver's seat. Obviously he missed last week. It's good to see him in the RX Vision. He seems to be doing quite well tonight, which is good to see. Obviously he took the penalty in the sprint race, unfortunately, but he's definitely letting that RX Vision and his driving skills doing the talking within this feature race, as we are about to go on to lap 19 of the race. Obviously over halfway. A race that's been filled with a lot of action across the grid. Is there anyone that, at the moment, over that halfway mark, you'd say is your driver of the day, or is it too early to tell for you?
I think really it's a bit too early to say, but I think it's definitely got to be Katie the Kai. Especially if he can pull off this one stop and hold Swizzy off. We see Swizzy getting held up by Stephen quite a bit. Oh, maybe one for the stewards. That one, Sarah.
Yeah, again, Stephen looking a little bit glitchy, so Swizzy obviously keeping it careful. He doesn't want to get into any accidents as he's looking to extend that gap to Katie the Kai as we go on board with Swizzy. The tyre wear looking a little bit worse for wear. I think obviously he'll be coming and pitting a little bit sooner than he'd want, ideally. Obviously going from that set of mediums quite early on. He was our first driver to pit. Yeah, I mean, the gap is still about 13 seconds, so he's held that constant gap throughout, which is quite impressive. But I think KD the Kai, he's on for potentially a win here, Kirk. I was just calculating kind of when Swizzy does come in, he will lose quite a lot of time to KD the Kai, who obviously is on that set of mediums looking towards the end of the race. I believe he's going for that one stop, trying to make it work as much as he can. The tyre wear on the mediums look a lot kind of easy to handle compared to the set of softs on the GTR. So I think we're in for a close finish towards the end, but I think the advantage is, and the ball is definitely in KD the Kai's court.
Absolutely. Interesting to know. I think KD the Kai was actually better on his tyres than Swizzy is. See, Swizzy has barely taken these tyres 8 or 9 laps, and they're already looking almost completely worn out. Where KD Kai took his soft tyres 14 to the end of lap 14. That could also play quite a big part in towards the end of this race. Because if KD Kai can keep his medium tyres in a half decent shape, then surely this is KD Kai's favour to win.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The tyres on KD the Kai's GTR looks a lot better condition than the tyres of Swizzy's GTR. As I say that, Swizzy comes into the pit. He's looking for that fresh set of rubber. Probably, I'd say he's going on to that set of softs, but we could see KD the Kai going into the lead here. Nick just getting out of the way for him on the start-finish straight into turn 1. So he will jump Swizzy, who is in the pits. So we have.
It'd be interesting to see.
You go for it. Go for it.
Sorry, Sarah.
It's all good.
It'd be interesting to see the gap when Swizzy comes out, as Swizzy has been jumped by Pedro as well. But I don't think Pedro is quite enough fuel to get to the end of this race. I see Swizzy possibly getting jumped by McManley as well. It's going to be close, but I think Swizzy is just going to hold it in front of McManley for now.
Well, very
And
close.
McManley's
Yeah.
going to painfully see. McManley's going to painfully see Swizzy drive off into the distance on those fresh soft tyres, Sarah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I didn't see Swizzy going for much longer on that old set of softs. They did look a little bit worse for wear. But I mean, he's got 8 laps left on a new set of softs. I wouldn't be surprised if he's putting his foot flat to the floor and looking to catch Pedro and KD the Kai again. Obviously coming out of the pits, very close to McManley. McManley himself on a set of softs that are slightly worn. I believe McManley's probably looking to go to the end as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't write him off just yet for potentially fighting Swizzy or Pedro towards the end of the race. He seems, after that little half spin, he seems to have kind of settled down, having a good race. As we see Deadline in 7th. So, Deadline having a little bit kind of at the start of the race, he did look quite good in contention for a podium, but currently on lap 21 sitting in 7th place.
I mean, we saw this last week at Fiji, where shall I say, where we saw Deadline at the front towards the first stint, but really dropping off once he gone onto the medium tyre, Sarah.
Yeah, it looks like that RX Vision, that it definitely favours the softs over the mediums. A lot of drivers kind of seeking comfort in that soft set of tyres, obviously feeling more confident on the softer set. Yeah, the mediums seem to be on a lot of cars, they seem to be quite difficult to handle at the moment with the current update. As we've seen, Deadline just missing the chicane there. But, I mean, definitely not a bad performance from Deadline. Obviously, we saw him in the sprint race fighting for the podium, and also towards the start of the race fighting for the podium positions as well. I mean, he's still kind of learning that RX Vision, the way it handles on certain tyres, so I wouldn't write him off for the following races at Suzuka and our last race at Red Bull Ring. I think before the end of the season, he'll be looking to fight for more podium positions.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to call it now. I think this is a KD Dakai win, because Swizzy's got to catch 11 seconds up to Pedro, then another 11 seconds up to KD Kai. Swizzy with about 8 laps left. Oh, as we see Nick. Oh, Nick getting in the way of Swizzy.
Yeah, we'll rewind that. We'll get a replay of that. Obviously, we'll go on board with Swizzy. Coming up to the back of Nick through the Schumacher S. Oh, very close. Very close indeed.
Yeah, I think it cost Swizzy about half a second compared to KD Dakai. Unfortunately for Swizzy, that is, of course. Obviously, Pedro coming in. It'll be interesting to see where Pedro comes out compared to McManley. Sim race, well, not Sim race dude's going to have to pit again looking at his fuel. It'll be interesting to see where Pedro comes out compared to Midnight, as these two were quite close before the pit stop, Sarah.
Yeah. It definitely will be interesting. Obviously, Midnight going for that pit stop a few laps ago, getting a new set of softs. McManley is looking for kind of, I think he's looking to go to the end of the race. I think Kirk McManley with that set of softs that he's got. So maybe we might have a three-way battle for P3.
I think that might be a bit too much, Sarah, seeing as Luke is 21 seconds behind McManley. So if McManley don't pit again, which I don't expect him to be, I think this is McManley's podium to take, Sarah.
Potentially, yeah. Obviously, I think McManley started on the mediums, so I think he again, like the other drivers in front of him, trying to make that one stop work, doing a brilliant job so far. Obviously, sporting a different, slightly new livery this week, which does look very good, very nice. Yeah, I mean, we can't write off Midnight either. He's had quite a good but quiet race. Obviously, leading the race for about a lap. Looking to pick up some podiums. Definitely beating me in our little commentators battle. I've got to say, I mean, I'm going for my 100% spin record. You normally see me on Midnight side having a little bit of fun out there. But yeah, I mean, Midnight doing another amazing job this week. We will also see him racing around to one of his favourite tracks of the Red Bull Ring. That'll be our season finale, so it'll be good to see how many points he can pick up tonight going into the Red Bull Ring, and where that kind of finishes him in the driving standards.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think Swizzy has enough left in the tank to be able to really challenge KD Dekai on the last few laps, Sarah. That gap looking at about 20 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I think both drivers will be happy in the positions that they're in after what is 29 laps around the Nürburgring. Obviously, about 2 minutes a lap, so I think they'll be happy in the positions they're in. KD Dekai, obviously, with the fastest lap as well. Although I said that, Swizzy getting a purple sector 1 again. So potentially trying to maximise his points to second place, trying to take that fastest lap off of KD Dekai.
You see Fred crashing, well not crashing but spinning off. Well, he has crashed because he's got big front end damage. It's too late for you to rewind that, Sarah.
I will try my bestest. There we are. Let's see if we can catch. Oh, we just catch the back of that. Looks like a little bit of an excursion off track in towards the wall. See, picking up some damage towards the last bit of the race. Pitting to repair that damage, and then he'll be out back again. But yeah, obviously, KD Dekai just overtaking Koulios down in 11th place. I mean, KD Dekai is in a league of his own today around the Nürburgring. His performance has been nothing short of perfection.
I think the one stop being the way to go has allowed him to absolutely dominate this race, Sarah. This could be of what to come next week. So obviously, we've seen now that the one stop is the way to go if the tyres can last. Obviously, Swizzy taking the more aggressive two stop just didn't have it in the tank to be able to close up the gap, Sarah.
No. Obviously, both of us thinking that gap towards the end of the race was going to be quite close. The gap is down to 18 seconds, and obviously we've got around 3 laps to go. Yeah, I mean
Pedro is overtaken Midnight for P4.
Yes, the battle of the two Nighthawk admin team. Obviously, the co-founder in Midnight ISO and the Nighthawk admin Pedro, heating up the battle for P4. These two are very closely matched in performance. So, with 3 laps to go, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on those two. They'll be trying to swap positions as well. But yeah, I mean, again, Pedro Midnight having a brilliant race today, not making many mistakes, Pedro getting the fastest first sector of the race so far. But as I was going back to my last point, Pedro and Midnight, they've not made many mistakes, but the Genesis and the McLaren compared to the AMG and the GTR just seem that little bit lower on the top end speed. As I said that, Pedro getting the fastest second sector. Could he be on for the fastest lap of the race? Potentially. Any thoughts on that, Kirk?
But I mean, Pedro is absolutely ragging the Genesis, giving absolutely everything she's got. Is he good? He's quickest in the third sector. We could be seeing a new fastest lap of the race here. compared to the tyres around everyone, certainly in Pedro's favour. I don't think anyone's going to really be able to battle it if Pedro does take the fast lap here. Obviously, fresh softs really taking it off, really taking the edge off everyone. Obviously, fresh tyres and low fuel. See a little bit squirrely on the exit. Can he set a new fastest lap of the race? Yes, he does.
What a lap! What a lap indeed
I'm sure he'll
from
be very
Pedro
happy with
there.
that. And just responding to Mario, no, Mac does not need to pit again. Mac is good to the end.
Yeah, with about 3 laps to go now. Yeah, the softs obviously towards the end will be a little bit kind of squirrely, but he's probably going to extract every little bit of rubber out of those set of softs. Currently in P3, about 10 seconds away from Swizzy, and got a comfortable gap between him and Pedro. So yeah, I mean a comfortable P3 at the moment for McManley. And I was just currently looking at the sprint race and feature race podiums that we've had so far, and my earlier point of KD the Kai not winning a race so far, that is correct. He hasn't won a race so far, so the sprint race will actually be KD the Kai's first win of the season, and he's on to his second race of the season in the feature race. See, 2 wins in one night.
Oh, Koulios, no. See, Koulios really holding up Swizzy in the final chicane, and I'm sure Swizzy will not be happy.
No, we will replay that and see how long Swizzy was stuck behind Koulios. It looks like they were pretty much glued to each other through that chicane there. Obviously, I think again that will be one for the stewards to have a look at afterwards. Obviously, the back markers ideally need to move out of the way for the people on the lead lap as we go back to
especially
Koulios. Sorry, go ahead.
Especially back markers who have unfortunately managed to pick up damage. I saw Swizzy, not Swizzy, Koulios spun coming onto the back straight and whacked the wall, and obviously while trying to recover must have blocked Swizzy in the final chicane and that.
Yeah, obviously kind of both losing time respectively. Saying that though, the gap between KD and Kai is still around 14 seconds, so losing about a second toward Swizzy losing about a second towards Kai. But yeah, going back to my first point before that, KD the Kai on for 2 wins in one night, picking up his first win of the season in the sprint race, and looking to pick up his first feature race win as well, picking up 2 wins in one night. Any thoughts about that, Kirk?
I think the Kai almost getting maximum points here tonight. Obviously, I think the only point he's going to miss out on is getting the fastest lap of the race. And I'm not sure if you got the fastest lap during the sprint race. But yeah, this is a fantastic week or fantastic round for KD the Kai. I'm not 100% sure how much it'll close the gap to Swizzy up by, or whether it'll be enough to really close the gap up to Swizzy. But very impressive round from me. Definitely my driver of the day today, Sarah.
Yes, definitely one of my drivers of the day as well, in contention. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been a long time coming. KD the Kai getting his first win. He's definitely a completely different GTR from what we've seen previously on the other tracks. This track seems to have suited KD the Kai perfectly. Extracting kind of every little bit of performance that he can, picking up, I believe, the fastest lap in the sprint race. We'll obviously have to check that afterwards. But yeah, I mean, a way to describe KD the Kai's kind of race today would be perfection. He's not put a foot wrong today, and like I said, a long time coming for KD the Kai's first win. I'm sure he'll be ecstatic after the race, with 2 wins in one night in the round 6 of our championship. I mean, we've all got to give it up for KD the Kai. He's driving amazing.
Absolutely. he's done he chose his strategy to perfection. He knew what he wanted from the start of the race and just stuck to his plan. And obviously, it's just worked out perfectly for him in the end.
Yeah, I've got to say, Swizzy, the tyre wear on Swizzy's GTR seems a lot higher on those softs, so potentially kind of the tyre wear holding Swizzy back today. But again, I mean, we've got to give it to Swizzy as well. He's been amazing. He's been amazing. I mean, all races he's been amazing, but today he's also been really, really good. Obviously bringing a few fights across the field, a few drivers that he's probably not raced a lot through the season, so it's good to see him racing with other people. But yeah, I mean, KD Dekai going for maximum points tonight.
You don't think that maybe that little bit of battling he did with Deadline at the start of the race really cost him a bit of time and cost him possibly being a bit closer towards Sky at the end of this race?
It could have, yeah. Obviously, the first few laps battling with Deadline maybe potentially kind of not forced him, but kind of put that thought in his mind that he does need to pit a little bit earlier, get off those mediums onto the set of softs so he can bring a little bit more of a fight towards the end. But obviously KD Dekai going for the set of softs right from the start and going on to the mediums, doing that alternative strategy has proved the right one today.
Absolutely. As we see KD Dekai with about half a lap to go, just coming up to lap Lee and Nick again. Do they get out of the way? Nick gets out of the way perfectly. Maybe a little bit iffy there from Lee, but Lee coming onto the back straight, Lee moves out of the way and lets KD Dekai pass with no issues. Sarah.
Yeah, obviously that's
what can we say about?
You go for it. So I was just saying that's what we like to see. Obviously the back markers giving plenty of room for our leading car. It's always good to see.
And as we say, as KD Dekai comes around the final corner, what can we say about KD Dekai that we haven't said already? It's been an absolutely fantastic round from KD Dekai this week, and I don't think he could have done it much better if he tried, Sarah.
No, I think, like I say, he will be ecstatic with that performance, picking up not only his first win of the season, but his second win as well. Obviously, 2 wins in one night. That's definitely picking up maximum points. I think he'll be very, very happy. And obviously, about the gap was closing towards the final stages with Swizzy making that gap to about 10 seconds. I think he'll be happy with that. But it's been different to see someone else taking that top spot of the podium. It's something obviously we've not seen a lot throughout the championship so far. So yeah, I mean, what can we say about Kai? I think he's kind of caught us out. We're a bit speechless. Obviously, very surprising performance. We knew Kai was capable of that, but really closing that gap to Swizzy, showing what driving to perfection was.
Yeah, absolutely. We see a return to the podium for McManley as well.
Yeah, again, I think McManley would be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have Pedro taking P4, Luke in P5, taking out P5. Do you think Luke will be happy with P5 tonight, Sarah?
After a difficult race, I think he will be. Obviously, not making too many mistakes. He did get caught in a little bit of a first lap battle between a few drivers, which might have cost him time in the long run. But that is with racing. Obviously, you get caught up in those first few lap battles. But I'm sure he'll be happy. Obviously, maximising the points that he can get. P5, not too far away from the podium. We know Midnight is definitely capable of podium drives, but Swizzy kind of going on the alternative strategy, making it work. Yeah, I think today's definitely been kind of raw speed, but also a play of strategies as well. So, yeah, I mean, what a race! I mean, that's caught me out. We're speechless, but what a race! Action across the field. Drivers relatively close to each other. I mean, we've not seen many mistakes from a lot of drivers, which I think all drivers should be massively, massively proud of themselves. I know us commentators are. You've provided us with a lot of entertainment. I don't think we've not stopped talking for the past hour. It's been a lot of fun. Kirk, do you want to kind of give everyone your thoughts about tonight's race?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was an absolutely fantastic race tonight. Bit of a shame. Bit of a shame in the end that we didn't see about the battle we expected between Swizzy and Katie the Kai, but that takes nothing away from the race that Katie the Kai has driven today. It's been absolutely fantastic from him, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been nothing short of amazing. It's definitely one of those races that will go down in the season as one of the most close racing between a lot of the drivers towards the middle pack, and we obviously have that different winner that we haven't seen so far. So yeah, massive congratulations to KD the Kai. We all knew that he was kind of capable of it. We knew that he would be looking to close that gap between Swizzy. Obviously, after round 5, the gap's looking at about kind of 75 points. A win from a sprint and a feature will close that up. But obviously, Kai coming home in second and just outside the podium for the sprint race. I think he'll keep that lead, but I mean, things are getting spicy in the driver championship standings towards the end. Obviously, round 6, we've got round 7 and round 8 to come, but it's heating up towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that battle for 4th place in the championship between Sim Race Dude and Pedro is really heating up as well. Obviously, Pedro getting P4 finish today in the feature race. I can't quite remember where he finished in the sprint race, but yeah, that gap in the championship really closing up between them, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that across the grid, some stellar performances from the drivers. A lot of battles in the driver standings will be igniting after today, going into round 7 at Suzuka. Any thoughts before we go and talk to our podium visitors of today?
I think I've really mentioned all my thoughts. I think, as I said, we've had a really good race today. A bit of a shame that we didn't see the closest battle at the end of the race between Katie Kai and Swizzy, but yeah, I think overall very good race today. We saw lots of battle throughout the pack. Obviously, the alternate strategies, the 2-stop versus the 1-stop, were quite close in the end, weren't they, Sarah?
They were, and thank you very much for Linksy for that raid there. Really do appreciate that. I am the familiar voice of today. Yeah, you will see me. I usually commentate on obviously RTO, and I will be tomorrow as well. It's lovely to see everybody. I was just commentating on our Nighthawk racing round number 6 at the Nürburgring. Me and Kirk, who is also my co-commentator of this evening, is in the box with me, and we were just discussing the sprint race and the feature race, looking at our driver standings so far, and we'll be looking to kind of go into the podium room in a moment, speak to our podium visitors. But yeah, we've had a new winner today, obviously from pole position, a pole tour win. We've had KD the Kai closing that gap. And then we've had Swizzy, also a stellar performance. We've had a few new people battling, and it's always good to see a full grid. Thank you very much for the raid, Midnight. I thank you for all the love, appreciate it. Hello, Deadline. Thank you for the follows, appreciate it. We have Swizzy in the chat as well. So I think it is time, Kirk, if you're ready, we will go and speak to our podium visitors.
Certainly, no worries. I'll see you over there.
I see you over there. So, as Kirk goes and says hello to the people in the podium room, we will also go and have a chat to them. Well done to everyone, all the drivers tonight. You've done an amazing job. I mean, you should all be massively like impressed with yourselves, proud of yourselves. 29 laps around the Nürburgring is not easy. Obviously, even if we are driving the GP layout, it's definitely not easy. You should be proud of yourselves and looking forward to speaking to everybody. Congratulations, KD the Kite, for not just one win of the evening, but 2 wins, picking up your first win in the sprint race and obviously the second race, the feature race, a win as well. So unstoppable KD the Kite today and an amazing drive. But I will also head into the podium room as I can see KD, we've got Kirk in there at the moment. We'll just join Kirk in the podium room. If there is anybody that wants to kind of hop into the podium room, speak with us before we look at the highlights, then feel free. We'd love to hear from you and kind of how you experienced the race today. As I say that, Swizzy pops in. So does Mac. So we'll start off with McManley. Obviously, P3 in the feature race. How do you feel? Have you got your Mac?
I don't know who... Oh, sorry. I just joined. So.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
All I heard was feature race, and I didn't know who was talking. Can you say the question again, please?
Yeah, of course. So obviously P3 in the feature race, after kind of the sprint race. I think you drove a completely different race in the feature. You did really well. Talk us through how you felt and how you felt after securing that P3.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing with the strategy. I just kind of like chucked on the tires and just drove off. But yeah, I think the start was pretty bad. I did not get away very well, and I was like falling back to deadline. Whatever happened, I just like my car got a bit of a kick of energy, and then as soon as I caught back up to deadline, I just like I don't know, my car just decided like that when I was driving straight, it was gonna start like spinning into the wall. So I think that didn't help me. But like P3, I mean, I'll take a P3 any day. Like that's pretty good. And I have to say, like Kai has just been like rapid, like in that endurance race. I don't know what he was giving that GTR, like all in all or something. He was super quick. And Swizzy as well was like pulling off ahead of me on the same compound, even with pressure from deadline behind. So like I have to say both of them like, did a really good race themselves. But like yeah, it was okay. It was alright.
I mean, I think you drove a really good race. Obviously sporting the new livery I saw, which looked very good. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, I mean, we saw you battling. We did think that obviously Midnight and Pedro that was behind you was going to close that gap. But obviously P3 had a comfortable gap to them. How was the kind of final few laps that you knew your P3 was in the bag? You didn't have to kind of stress out too much about it. And then after that, if Kirk has any questions, please feel free to ask.
I mean, I think that final few laps, I was trying to like keep up with Swizzy because he came out literally like right alongside me, but I knew I wasn't gonna be able to catch him because to save a lap of fuel and also then not spin. So I was trying to keep up with him. I think in the end, the one stopper was the optimal strategy. I think like it didn't work for Pedro, and it was like I was just kind of driving my own race at the end there. I was just trying to keep it on track. And once I saw, I think the gap was about 10 seconds before Pedro pitted. I knew that at that point, I was pretty certain that the Sauce weren't going to gain about 25 seconds unless I made a mistake. So I should just keep it on the road really, which happened. Fortunately, I did. So, yeah.
I mean, a massive congratulations to you. If you have any questions for McManley before we talk to Deadline or Swizzy, feel free to ask now.
Yeah, absolutely. So McManley, you were kind of just in a race of your own. It's a lack of better words. Obviously, once Swizzy come out the pit after a second stop, and you knew you weren't going to really challenge him for a second, did you just kind of just say into auto drive and take it to the finish?
I mean, I was subconsciously trying to keep the gap close to Swizzy, but like the Mercedes was giving me a few issues in the feature race. I don't really know what was wrong with it. It was just didn't feel like it was in the sprint. Probably because of fuel. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of just settled into like, yeah, I guess like P3 is good. I mean, I was hoping for P1 in the sprint, and then I genuinely have no idea. Like, I think Area 51 got reincarnated in Deadline's car or something. So, uh, I honestly, I'm pretty happy considering it's my first race getting a podium in both the sprint and the feature because I haven't done that yet. So, I think it's solid points, and yeah.
And were you expecting more of a challenge from Deadline? Obviously, we saw him in the first in up there with Swizzy. Were you expecting to come back at you after after your pit stop, or were you just expecting to run a clean race to the end?
I mean, I have to congratulate Deadline on the win in the sprint race, or the pretty much possible win. I'll be honest, I don't know if Kai will get away with that overtake in the last lap, but like I wasn't expecting Deadline to come back. I'll be honest. He's a quick driver, but at the same time, the reason I was having so much trouble with him in the sprint was just because I couldn't see where he was on the track. So he was quick on that first stint, but I knew he was on the soft tires, and he was able to mimic he was Swizzy line because he was telling me he was like just he was kind of driving behind Swizzy. So but I did expect him to at least be somewhere like P4. But I think it didn't really work out very well for him. So I think unfortunately he came like P6 or something. But I was expecting him to at least be like trailing behind me, but I wasn't expecting a challenge. I think I was more expecting a challenge from Pedro at that rate, I think.
Great. Well, that's everything I have for you, Manly. Well done today. Very well deserved podium in both races. And who knows if as you say, if Kai's overtake doesn't quite stand, maybe you might get promoted up to P2 in the sprint race.
Yeah, yeah.
Be extracting loads of points out of that Mercedes, and got to say, massive well done. Look forward to seeing what you can extract from that Mercedes at Suzuka. But thank you very much for joining us in the podium room. Go and celebrate the podium, and we will chat to you shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks everybody. Good job everybody. Especially I have to say big congratulations to Kai. I mean that performance was quite unexpected. So well done, mate. And good job Swizzy as well. And everyone else really, like everyone out there, I saw some pretty clean racing, so good job everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you as always, and have a good rest of your evening. So, who wants to go next? We've got quite a few people in the podium room. I've just spotted. So I was like,
I can go.
Yeah, of course you can, Swizzy. We'd love to hear from you. If I just put us back to the podium room so we can hear you. There we go. Cool. So, Swizzy, how was that race for you? How was the evening for you? Obviously, sprint race, just coming short of a podium, but driving a phenomenal race again in both the sprint and the feature. How would you kind of sum up your evening?
I mean, it kind of looked probably decent on paper, but yeah, it's race to forget for me. Both sprint and feature race. Sprint race, I was all over the place. Like I don't know what was happening, but some laps were nice, and then I was sliding all over the place. So kind of did not deserve the podium. And the feature race, or basically after qualifying, I already knew that unless Guy gonna spin on every apex, I'm not gonna win tonight, because I was qualifying with mediums. He was using soft, but like the gap should not be 2 seconds, so I already knew it's gonna be huge trouble, and I also knew it's probably, if not my worst tracks, but definitely one of those, and I might do good laps or whatever, but like compared to the other tracks, this is not for me. And I mean, P2, it's not horrible, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of hoping a little bit, racing. And for me, everything went bad from the start. Like the last stint was very good, but I was hoping not to fight with Deadline so much. I knew he was on soft and I was like ready to let him go, but then he passed me, but he wasn't pulling away, so he was kinda starting to slow me down, and I lost too much time fighting with him. I mean, clean racing, but it's frustrating. And then I knew that I need to do this 2-stop. I was kinda counting Kai to do 1-stop, but I knew I already lost too much time that I have to try something, and I beat it way earlier and did double stint with soft, and then I realized that I'm not even closing the gap or with soft tires when Kai was on mediums. I mean barely. So rest of the race was basically trying to get fastest lap that I didn't even get. Like shout out to Petro, very nice lap. And yeah, the last stint it was basically just playing the gap to Kai. Like I really tried to push it down as much as I can, even though I knew win was out of the cards unless there's like random rain, which never happens. Um, yeah, the last stint was great, but yeah, it's race to forget, and it's still good result. But no, I'm too harsh to myself usually, so there was lots of small mistakes that I need to get rid of, and yeah, it's still nice. So we move on to the next one.
I was going to say definitely some positives to take away from that race. I think we all were kind of harsh on ourselves as racers, but you drove a phenomenal sprint and feature, and you should be proud of yourself, and yeah, focus on the positives. But Kirk, any questions for Swizzy?
Yeah, I think it's just mainly resulting with the battling with Deadline. Do you think maybe battling with Deadline as much as you did, do you think that really cost you a chance at battling with Katie Kai, or do you think Katie Kai's pace was just too much to be able to overcome today?
It definitely cost me time, but like even if we didn't battle at all, there was no catching Kai today. I don't think. But then again, like if we didn't battle, I was probably going to go long with mediums. So I kind of changed my tactic because of that. But looking like Kai's pace tonight, like I think it would have been maybe closer, but I don't think that there was chance to win for me tonight. So big shout out to Kai. Like we've been racing in GT Sport and always being quite close with the pace. Some tracks suit the other driver better, but yeah, like I always knew and always give credit to him. I know what he can do, and looks like he didn't do much mistake tonight. And if he did, he was even faster. So yeah, big respect and shout out to Kai.
Yeah, I mean the
You
respect between you two, the battle of the GTRs, is always good to see. So a massive congratulations to you both. Any other questions, Kirk?
I was gonna say, do you think the battling with Deadline again in the sprint race cost you the chance of podium finish, or do you think on the final lap, well, coming up to the final lap, everyone was just being a bit too aggressive, and you were the one that lost out because of it?
On the sprint, yes, I think I lost podium, but I don't know if that was like luck. Yeah, lag hit or what it was. Probably, like if I look the replay, maybe there wasn't even hit, but because of the desync and lag, I don't know. But yeah, it definitely made me go wide and got dirty tires, and I lost it there. And I could have been more aggressive on some moves, but I didn't want to do or take any risk. Basically, I tried to enjoy nice close fighting and didn't want to ruin anyone's race. Um, yeah, I don't really like if I got podium or not. Like it was still fun. Like obviously I'm not happy with P4, but it could have been. No, the main thing is to enjoy. So I try to do that, but I'm always so hungry for the wins, especially on leagues or whatever. But I didn't want to do anything stupid. It was fun.
Yeah, no,
I
definitely
guess
looks fun.
Yeah, it's always better to get some points than no points, I guess.
Yeah, what's the saying to finish? Well, to finish first, you must finish. I can't remember the exact quote, but yeah, I mean, like I said, definitely some positives to take away from that race, Susie. Don't be too harsh on yourself. I mean, both of us, Kirk and myself, we thought you drove a phenomenal race. Obviously, we did see a few kind of hold ups from the back markers. Obviously, that will be looked at by the stewards, but obviously, that can kind of put an added obstacle trying to get around those back markers, but we thought you did a phenomenal race as usual. And before we let you go, how are you looking forward to Suzuka? A track you like, a track you don't like, or give us your thoughts about Suzuka next week.
I like the track, legendary track, but I have a huge skill issue. But we will see. Like I haven't driven GTR around that track. Usually prefer M6. So can't really say anything, but yeah, I mean, every race so far has been fun. So of course I'm gonna wait for it, and we will see. Like I have no idea how the GTR is there actually, so I expect the close race, and it's quite hard to overtake also on that track. So really need to nail your strat on that track, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much, Swizzy. Always a pleasure to speak to you, and congratulations on your sprint race and feature race points. Obviously, storming away in the lead in the driver standings at the moment, but yeah, we will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for always being a pleasure to speak to, and we will see you next week at Suzuka.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Swizzy.
Thanks. See you.
So, deadline. How are you? How are you feeling after that race? Obviously, quite an interesting sprint race for yourself in the RX Vision, and I saw that Max alluded to a bit of Area 51 going on with your car, but yeah, explain your racing.
Well, I would say I'm a bit bit I don't know how to start really speaking. The sprint race was I feel I should have went a little bit better for me since I had a very good advantage of starting on pole position. Wow, even if some people would probably argue maybe I shouldn't be there, but we will move on from that topic. In all honesty, the sprint race went as well. I tried my best to defend, and unfortunately, probably my defense didn't really work out in the end for the last couple of laps when the guy overtake me in the end. But in all honesty, the sprint race it's all good. I still got a podium in the end, so I need to feel a little bit good about myself because I'm feeling like I am a quite good knack for sprint races at the moment, as it seems. But then the whole shambles of my main race kind of kicked in once again. What seems like could have finished in a relatively good position, only to finish in P6, which I mean it's not a terrible position by all means, but it's not an ideal position I would like to be in for the main race. But overall, my source is pretty good. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, I mean, both of me and Kirk thought you drove a really impressive sprint race. Obviously, in the feature race, like you say, P6. But how have you come to terms with learning the RX Vision? Does it kind of suit your driving style a little bit more than the Lamborghini did?
I mean, when it comes to the RX Vision, honestly, it drives a little bit better than the Huracan. Since the Huracan was a bit more very, as soon as they had tiny bit of tire wear, it would die immediately. Whilst the RX-7 is a bit a bit more nicer to drive and a bit more friendlier. So I feel like I have came a little bit hand in hand with the car. So honestly, so far I feel like the car change was a pretty good choice in the end.
And
So
I'm glad
I'm quite
to hear.
happy.
Just one final question from myself before I hand you over to Kirk, who I'm sure has got plenty of questions for you. But how did it feel kind of battling with Swizzy across, obviously, both the sprint and the feature race? It looked like it was quite close between you two.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when it comes to driving against Swizzy, I always know that when I'm always trying to have a battle with him, it's always going to be fun and fair and clean. It's always a thrill to race against him since I know he's a very good driver, and I'm going to be very confident knowing that he won't murder me into the next corner, which I will have to say I might have accidentally done that at least 3 times in the main race. So I don't think you would probably agree with me saying that, but we move on. So, but yeah, I really enjoy racing with Swizzy, and because obviously I've been racing with him for a good couple of different leagues in the past, there and again, and I always know he's just overall very nice to drive against. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of respect there. So, Kirk, passing over to yourself, have you got any questions for our deadline?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we saw like last on the last lap or penultimate lap and the last lap, everything got a bit aggressive towards the top four. Obviously you, Katie, Kai, and Swizzy and that. What was it like from your perspective? Did you get any contact? Do you think anybody was maybe a bit too aggressive from your end at the end of the sprint race?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it is the sprint race, and we always know the sprint race is always going to be a bit more chaotic than the main race. And you're putting like 4 very good drivers, well, 3 and myself, uh, all together in one group. And so obviously, usually when it gets to the end, usually when it's the end of the race, obviously we're all there fighting out for a victory. So you wouldn't be surprised if in the end, we all do have a bit of an oopsie daisy. There is one instance I will probably pass on to the stewards, which I feel like might have been a bit nasty. But watching other sides of POVs at the moment, it looks like looks like I was lagging a lot. So I'm probably not too sure if it will actually if it will actually succeed. But we will just have to wait and see for that incident to go through. But again, I just want to reiterate, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised that we will try to be a little bit too aggressive, but at the end of the sprint race, because again, it is fighting for a victory in the end, and well, yeah, and again, but we all have respect for each other, so in the end, shouldn't be anything too bad.
I also wanted to talk about in the feature race. Obviously, we saw you was the top with them soft tires. Were you always expecting to drop back after the first pit stop? Or were you a bit
Uh,
surprised by where you ended up after switching to the medium tire?
well, honestly, knowing that I was on the softs and that Swizzy was on the mediums, if I'm correct, for the first part of the race, I kind of knew that if I didn't get past Swizzy in that first bit early on, I was probably going to struggle in the later part of the races due to the fact that, well, if I don't get past him on the softs while he's on the mediums, that's going to be a very bad issue in the later stages. But yeah, for the kind of like afterwards for the pit stops, when it was only one stop, because I was expecting to do at least 2, but in the end, it looked like the one stop was actually better, which kind of threw me off a bit. But it's kind of be no surprise that in the end I kind of finished slightly behind than I expected in the end. But I think honestly, when it comes to racing against Swizzy and all that, it's gonna be really tough to beat them in the race. And obviously, I kind of didn't help myself in the strategy wise, anyways. So yeah.
But yeah, like Swizzy, I think a lot of positive to take from tonight's race. Well, both races. And just before we let you go, if you are racing in Suzuka, are you looking forward to that track that you like, track that you not necessarily dislike?
Suzuka with me, it's kind of like I'm quite good at it when it comes to like super formula open wheel kind of type cars, but when it comes to like GT3 type cars, I'm kind of a hit and miss. It depends on the day. Sometimes I'm all right with it. Next day I'm absolutely useless. So we just have to wait and see really if it's a good day or a bad day for me.
Oh, the Nighthawk team obviously and the commentators will hopefully like kind of give you a lot of good luck for that race. But a pleasure to talk to you, Deadline, as always. And again, a lot of positives to take away. Massive congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and pleasure to
Well
talk
done,
to you guys
Deadline.
as always. Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna disappear now.
Thank you for popping in and saying hello, and we will speak to you next week.
But maybe if I'm good
potentially.
enough.
Well, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. So if you ever want to pop in, just do.
Yeah, fair enough. I will do. See you guys.
See ya. So, as I just put on the championship calendar, we will have a word with SimRace Dudes. Pleasure to have you here in the commentary box.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problems. As always, a pleasure to speak to each and every driver. Obviously, P7 in the sprint and P7 in the feature. 7 seems to be your lucky number tonight. Talk us through how you felt about the sprint race and the feature race from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean it was good fun. Sprint race was a nice little, battle with some of the drivers. The feature race, a couple of battles, but I'm kind of sat in no man's land, so the race can get quite not so much boring, but it's you'd rather be stuck in the action, and you want to especially be racing with the guys in front. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of hope at the end to try and pinch that position off Deadline. But I'll be honest, even if I caught up to him, he would have been decent enough to put a good defence against me. So, yeah, I think that's the best I could have done today. In terms of the championship, I seem to be doing okay-ish. I'm just trying to get the most out of what I can do and what I can get out of the car.
I was going to say, you've been getting a lot of performance out of that Aston Martin. And before I pass you over to Kirk, obviously you are sitting in P4 in the championship, just outside of that that P3 spot. Explain to us how, kind of over the season, because we've not had the chance to speak to you, how are you kind of handling that Aston Martin, obviously the only Aston on the grid? How are you finding it? Is it suiting your driving style, or have you had to kind of learn the characteristics of the car throughout the season so far?
I mean, I've had to learn the characteristics of the car, but also the game. I mean, Gran Turismo isn't my main game. I mean, another factor is that I started the championship on controller. It's only been in the last couple of races that I've actually managed to get back on a wheel, which has been quite nice. And quite enjoyable as well compared to sat there on the controller. It's, if I can get on the wheel, that's what I prefer to do. Yeah, it's been quite challenging at times. I mean, I don't think the car that I've chosen has been particularly great. Looking at everybody else's pace, but there's maybe a skill issue there as well. I'm just trying to make the most of it. But I'll be honest, I'm having a lot of fun. And speaking of the championship, I was P4, but I believe Pedro's performance, being what it is, he's going to snatch that straight back off me. I believe we seem to be quite close points wise.
Yeah, you two seem to be very closely matched. I'll now pass you over to Kirk. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask him Masood.
We saw in the first stint that you were quite close to Midnight. Did you think if you did anything differently, you could have been able to beat Midnight today, or do you think it was just too quick today for you?
I mean, it's a false hope really with Midnight. I just assumed that he was on a different strategy. I tried to just keep nice and close to him. But he definitely had a better strategy than me. And I mean, we nearly had a bit of a coming together just before the final chicane. I had to back out of that. Ended up losing myself a good 5 or 6 seconds. So I had that in the back of my mind, even towards the end of the race, because I think I made the gap. I reduced the gap to deadline to 3 seconds. But as I said before, even if I did catch up to him, I think he would have put on a mega defence against me. So it was good to obviously be almost battling midnight. But I don't want to be going for false moves and losing both drivers' time.
Yeah, no worries with that. And in the sprint race as well, we saw you finish 7th. You think you could have done any better? Obviously, we saw it all kick off at the front in the final lap. Do you think if you were up there, you could have challenged for something, maybe a better result?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I was a little bit more aggressive. I've not put in a lot of practice, so I used the sprint race just to kind of as my warm up instead of the quali. So I think there was maybe a little bit more pace there, maybe an extra position. But I mean, I'm looking at the caliber of drivers around me, and I've got to be happy with what I can get.
No worries. Don't put yourself down too much there. You've done a very fantastic job today, mate.
Oh, I mean, I think everybody's the same. We're always overly critical of what we're doing, and always looking for improvement. And I think I've done okay, but there's definitely some areas there to still work on.
Yeah, I mean, as I said,
well, good luck next week if you're here.
Yeah, well, obviously at Suzuka next week. How are you feeling about Suzuka? A track that you like, or not really?
Yeah, I mean, I love Suzuka. I mean, especially in the high downforce cars. I mean, if we were doing something like Super Formula, I'd be well excited. I think I'm a bit like how Deadline is. It can be a bit hit and miss with these Group 3s. But I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely a circuit that I enjoy. Maybe a bit more practice beforehand will provide a better result.
Yeah, like I said to the other drivers, a lot of positives to take away from tonight's race across the board. A pleasure to speak to you. Obviously, don't get the chance to speak to you very often, but thank you so much for popping in to the comms box, having a quick word with me and Kirk. We really do appreciate it, and it's been amazing to from me, amazing to race with you on track, and also to see you racing when I'm in the comms box. It's a pleasure to see you out on track doing so well.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. We will speak to you next week, and the best of luck at Suzuka. Obviously hoping for another amazing performance from yourself, and keeping that battle nice and close for P4, 5 and 6 in the championship. I'm sure obviously the points that you got today will definitely help kind of keep you, Pedro and Lee quite close to each other. But if Kirk has anything else to ask, we will leave it there. And again, just a massive thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, that's everything I want to say. I think, as I just want to reiterate, I think you've done a very good job today. Race dude. I think you should be very happy with your performance. Look forward to next week.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and similar to Deadline, if you ever want to pop in and have a chat after the race, please feel free to come and have a few words with us. We really appreciate your time, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And again, just a massive congratulations on tonight.
Yep, thank you. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye. So, Kirk, we will go to the highlights now as we round out the stream. Any final words from yourself before we go to the highlights?
Yeah, I just want to say it was a very, very, very good race for KD to today. I'd be properly immense or properly chuffed if I was Kai. I am, I think, looking forward to next week. I'm wondering, would it work again? It could a one-stop work at Suzuka. Obviously, Suzuka, a very difficult track, and obviously once the tyres wear at Suzuka, you'll find everything quite a a lot more difficult than possibly you would find it at Nürburgring. But yeah, I'm saying bring on next week. I'm looking forward to it, Sarah. I'm expecting to see much of the same. Maybe a few unexpected results. Maybe seeing you up there next week on the track, Sarah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hopefully I'll keep it on the grey stuff next week at Suzuka. But yeah, looking forward to racing. Obviously, Midnight will be back in the comms box for his last go in the commentary, and then I will be back for our season finale. Obviously, as the calendar shows in front of us, we go to Suzuka next week, and then for our finale we go to the Red Bull Ring, which I think is a personal favourite for quite a lot of drivers. So yeah, I mean, it's Suzuka, a track that we all have driven in kind of GT Sport, GT7, a nice track which provides some different challenges, loads of different corners, lots of high speed exits. So yeah, again, like Kirk just said, it should provide some nice clean close racing between our drivers, and I'll try and get in the mix. I'll try my best. But just to reiterate Kirk's words, a massive congratulations to all the drivers. You've done really, really well so far. Looking forward to being out on the track with you next week. And yeah, I mean, driver of the day, Kirk, who are we going to give it to this week?
I don't think there's really much of a question for who deserves driver of the day. It's absolutely got to go to KD Dekai. All wins the sprint race, wins the feature race. You know, I just can't go wrong, can you?
No, a very well-deserved driver of the day in KD Dekai. And that rounds us off for tonight at the Nürburgring. We will go to the highlights, so make sure to watch the highlights, catch the highlights on YouTube. Afterwards, it will be uploaded, hopefully by the end of tonight into tomorrow. And yeah, again, thank you very much for all the love. Appreciate it as always, and we will see you next week at Suzuka.